Kenichi, the party leader, sneers down at our boy Hirotaka with a smug grin like he's already won. Those words slammed into him like a punch to the chest, freezing him in total shock. He demands an explanation, then they slam him with the truth: he's useless to the team. And that's when every single one of them, summoned to this world as heroes, were tasked with bringing down the Demon King. But as the tavern crowd hisses their whispers, Hirotaka suddenly realizes this isn't a joke. Kenichi bursts into laughter, mocking the world as he drags his trash-picking gift into the spotlight. Hirotaka's eyes spark with defiance, and with a sudden reach, he throws his hand forward. He starts channeling this strange power, and it erupts into a glowing light around his fingers. A blinding glow surges into existence right at the heart of his palm. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a tiny potion bottle pops into existence in midair. His trash-picking skill lets him snatch back random items others tossed away across this world. But his old teammates just stare him down, pure disdain in their eyes. The rest of the tavern's crowd is clearly thinking the same thing. Hirotaka practically bursts with joy, insisting he just hit a perfect, lucky pull. His grin hits the air and the crowd erupts in mocking laughter, slicing right through his excitement. Kenichi scoffs and points out that one measly potion can't do a thing for a party packed with healers. Then he twists the knife and sneers at Hirotaka, mocking his age and how helpless he depends on others. But here comes the rumor of Fire's return. He's swearing he's only 17 in this brand new world. Cruel words bombarded him nonstop, branding him as a useless disgrace. And the crushing weight of their rejection slams into him so hard he can barely breathe, completely stunned. He challenges them, asking why they're pushing this so far, his voice shaking as he speaks. Then a fiery spark flares in his eyes, and he snaps that he doesn't need them at all. Kenichi hurls one final insult, demanding they give back the equipment they so graciously lent him. The final blow hits and Hirotaka just freezes, completely out of words. The party leader shoots them a smug, condescending sneer right at the end. But in the middle of it all, Ataka's patience finally breaks. He snaps, yanks up his bags of collected junk and screams, "You're not taking this." He fumbles his way out, tumbling down the stairs in a full-on disaster, still clutching his precious garbage. From the other side of the door, he screams his final accusation at his former comrades. He storms out in defiance, and the whole place erupts into another wave of laughter behind him. Alone and crushed by humiliation, he can only roar his rage into the empty night. He slumps on the steps, finally forced to face the brutal truth: he never mattered to them at all. It's just how the world works. If it's no longer needed, you toss it aside without a second thought. His mind rockets back to his old life, when he hauled scraps as a junk collector. As he rips through the house, he suddenly spots a tiny item hiding among the junk he's tossing out. A lonely teddy bear worn down to nothing, shoved away and forgotten. The homeowner strides up and blurts out that the toy got mixed in by accident. But she snaps at him to get rid of it anyway, because they're done using it. Meanwhile, her daughter beams and tackles her with a joyful hug, clutching her brand new stuffed animal. Hirotaka stands there gripping the old bear, and that deep, crushing sadness fills his eyes. As the truck roars off into the distance, that toy gets dumped to face its fate completely alone. He can't shake the feeling that missing out on all this makes him the weird one. Now he's sprawled on that cold pavement, staring at nothing, thinking, what am I even supposed to do next? Left behind by his comrades, he's completely on his own, trapped in a brand new world with nothing but silence ahead. They snatched his gear and his cash, then dumped him with nothing but his worthless, piled-up junk. With the situation crumbling into chaos, a sly wry smile starts to creep across his face. The kind of calm that hits like a promise, newfound, steady, and impossible to ignore. So he shrugs it off and refuses to obsess. He's about to show everyone what a junk collector can truly unleash. Fueled by fresh purpose, he rips open his bags like it's go time. He laid his stuff out on the table, then took a hard look at everything he had. He snatches up the battered gauntlet, staring at it like it still holds the secrets of the person who wore it before. He can't shake the feeling it once belonged to some legendary adventurer, someone who chased wild, jaw-dropping sights the world over. He even spots those faint, dark scars left behind by old battles. To hear Ataka, because even if something gets thrown away, it still echoes in your heart. No matter how old and battered it gets, it still holds on. Every scrap of trash is hiding a story that refuses to disappear. Sure, Kenichi might have mocked him, but trust me, our boy is genuinely buzzing that he finally got this skill. A fresh dawn rips open over the city, and everything starts moving again. He pushes through the streets and finally tracks down a local item shop. He stomps in clutching a sack of junk, praying he can finally sell everything he's hauled in. At the counter, he leaned in and asked the shopkeeper whether he'd buy anything besides potions. The shopkeeper leans in and peers into the bag, and the moment he sees what's inside, surprise hits his face like a punch. But his hope gets obliterated the moment the man snaps and refuses to buy that trash. Hirotaka shoots back hard, insisting that calling it garbage is nothing but a biased guess. The shopkeeper's voice flips the moment he studies the piece up close, grilling Hirotaka. Did he really take it apart himself? He nods and lays it all out. He took it apart on purpose so the materials would be way easier to reuse. The man stares, clearly impressed, because dismantling gear takes muscle and real know-how. He couldn't believe someone so young could pull it off. Little did he know Hirotaka was way older than he looked. He flips his decision on the spot and storms in with a deal. He'll buy the entire lot for 6 silver coins. Hirotaka's face lights up with relief, and he can barely hold back his overflowing gratitude. He steps back onto the street, and the moment his first successful deal closes, he's officially won. He stares at the non-stop city streets, and a brand new path sits waiting right in front of him. A grin bursts across his face when he realizes he can actually live here, by scavenging junk. Honestly, with no boss breathing down his neck and no quotas to chase, this life could hit even harder than his old one. Right when that hope sparks to life, a cold, sobering thought slams into him like a punch. That insane power of his can only fire once every 12 hours, and right now, that's nowhere near enough to keep him alive. With that brutal cooldown dragging on and his pulls feeling totally random, he starts doubting himself all over again. To keep his life afloat, he slips into the forest and hunts medicinal herbs to sell for cash. But the moment he keeps working, a sharp rustle erupts from the bushes, and he freezes on the spot. A tiny white creature with bright, curious eyes squeezes out from the undergrowth, staring like it's hunting a secret. For one breath, Hirotaka shoves his worries aside, and can't stop himself from smiling at that adorable sight. But that adorable little creature was only the warm-up, because right after, something way more terrifying was about to smash into the scene. A swarm of monstrous rats explodes out of the foliage, and Hirotaka's blood runs cold as pure panic slams into him. He sprints for his life, and it hits him. He totally spaced out monsters were even real in this world. He's leaned on his old party for so long that now, with them gone, he's left totally defenseless. Right when despair starts to crush him, a sudden thought slams into his mind like lightning. Right when he needed it most, his skills, 12-hour cooldown finally shattered and left him free to strike again. He tears up praying for a weapon, anything at all that can give him the power to fight back. He shot out his hand and triggered his garbage-picking skill. His eyes are blazing, half hope, half terror, like something huge is about to happen. With a jolt of dark energy, something tears into existence on the ground right in front of him. His eyes snap wide as dark energy spirals and churns in front of him. It all starts to gather momentum, then suddenly snaps into a solid, real form, forming into the hilt of a weapon gripped tight in his hand. He gapes at the wild, ornate dagger in his hands, still in total disbelief. He's clueless about what's happening, but there's zero time to even wonder. Those monstrous rats are creeping in fast, ready to spring and tear into them the second they're in range. With a desperate scream, Hirotaka whips the blade around wildly, like he's fighting for his life. But instead of a clean slash, the dagger spits out a brutal volley of dark projectiles. Shadowy spikes slam into the rats, skewering them and pinning them to the ground in the blink of an eye. The surviving monsters whip around and bolt in pure terror, and Hirotaka is left alone in the ruins. He lets out a shaky breath and it hits him, he's really safe. He can't believe the dagger's insane power, even as he remembers it was just trash someone threw away. He leans in, studying the weapon's bizarre design, so strange it almost makes the hair on his neck stand up. A sudden heavy thought hits him full force as he locks eyes with the blade. With a grateful smile, he turns to the dagger and thanks it for pulling him back from the edge of death. Even with all his resistance, he can't deny it, the sight is downright creepy. Staring at the monsters crumpled on the ground, he suddenly realizes, this isn't a loss at all, it's a gold mine of sellable materials. A rat's got a coin slipping out like it's dropping treasure, and suddenly, unexpected money hits out of nowhere. Sensing his luck had flipped, he grinned and snatched up every last bit of his spoils. But just as he's finally smiling, a brutal, piercing scream snaps the moment in half. He stops dead as a scream tears through the trees, echoing like it wants to break the forest open. The moment he snaps into action, his first thought is crystal clear. Someone has to get an adult in here, like now. Then it hits him like a punch, he's the only grown-up here. He sprints toward the noise and finds a young girl trapped, face to face with a monstrous bear. She's frozen solid with terror, barely managing to yell at the beast to back off. But the creature's eyes burn with pure, unstoppable rage. It unleashes a terrifying roar, then rockets forward to crash into its target. Right at the last second, Hirotaka lunges in and throws himself between them. The girl can only gape in total shock, stunned that a rescuer showed up out of nowhere. He flashes a relieved grin, knowing he actually made it. But just as his heroic moment kicks off, the bear swings its paw and bam, it slams into his face, cutting him down instantly. That brutal hit rips him off his feet and hurls him flying through the air. He crashes down in a tangled heap, completely stunned by how brutally unstoppable that monster is. This isn't just any bear, it's a nightmare with one blazing eye, and that glow spells pure destruction. The young girl stares, terrified, as her brand new protector gets dropped with one brutal strike. The beast snaps back to its original target, completely brushing off fallen Hirotaka. From the ground, our boy just stares, completely frozen, as the world flips on him in an instant. Her hope evaporates in an instant, and all that's left is a desperate, tearful plea for someone, anyone, to save her. Then, with courage igniting in her chest, she lifts her staff and steps up to face the monster head-on. That odd orbit's tip starts to shake, then flickers, glowing faintly as a hint of magic stirs to life. But in the blink of an eye, her resolve crumbles, and pure, gut-wrenching terror takes over. She realizes, horror creeping in, that this is just how it's always been for her. When the stakes finally hit, her magic breaks down, and suddenly she's a weight on everyone she's trying to save. Old memories of every past failure slammed into her mind, each one a brutal jab that screamed she wasn't enough. Now she's hauled a total stranger into her chaos, and all she can do is see herself as worthless garbage. But a voice slices through her despair, whispering that it'll all be okay. Hirotaka gritted his teeth, hauled himself up, and swore he'd take care of it. The girl can only freeze on the spot, totally stunned that he bounced back so fast. Even while he's still stuck on the ground, Hirotaka's mind is already cooking up a brand new plan. His fingers snap shut around the hilt of that strange dagger he'd unearthed earlier. With a defiant roar, he shoves back against the beast like his life depends on it. Swearing that his days as a junk collector had carved out strength his body couldn't even measure. He suddenly slams the monster's huge arm aside with jaw-dropping strength. The bear freezes for one stunned heartbeat, like it can't believe what it just saw, before its eye flares with an even fiercer rage. It lunges in hard, sinking its teeth deep into Hirotaka's arm like it's trying to tear him apart. Realizing brute strength won't cut it, he ditches it and snaps into action with his one true weapon. He slams the strange dagger straight into the monster's side with everything he's got. The beast's eye snaps wide in an instant, pain and shock ripping through it. But Hirotaka's stomach drops. He realizes the wound is way too shallow to save him. He knows he can't stop now. He has to keep stabbing until he finds the fatal hit, but this dagger is way too small to do any real damage. If only he'd had a weapon with just a little more reach, one swing farther, and everything could have changed. But then the strange hilt starts squirming right in his grip. He can only freeze there, staring in pure, jaw-dropping disbelief at the transformation. The blade stretches out length by length until it's razor-long and impossible to ignore. His thoughts can't keep up as that dagger twists into a blazing sword right in front of him. Not some ordinary sword, this one was a nightmare, a grotesque blade crawling with living eyes that felt like they were watching back. But before he can even process it, that enraged bear barrels forward again, launching another vicious lunge. Without a second to breathe, Hirotaka whips that brand new blade and swings with everything he's got. The grotesque sword slices clean through the monster's side, like it's nothing, pure, terrifying ease. The monster crumples into two perfect halves, obliterated by one impossible strike. A young girl sits there, frozen, as her mind scrambles to make sense of what she just lived through. She leans in and whispers in pure awe at the insane display of power. Hirotaka's jaw drops too. He just stares at the weapon in his own hands, completely stunned. He still can't wrap his head around it. One brutal swing, and he split a massive bear in half. He stares into the blade, and the moment he does, he realizes it didn't just change shape. It feels like it's staring right back at him. He can't shake the feeling that this blade is seriously dangerous. But the fear doesn't stand a chance. Instant childish glee bursts out as he can't stop admiring how awesome his new weapon is. He keeps the blade right up against him, staring it down like, "So, what are you exactly?" And the moment it answers, the sword starts to throb with a dark, chilling power that makes your skin crawl. That sudden rush of power hits him like a truck, and he's left utterly stunned. Right in front of him, a dark aura churned and then snapped into strange, glowing words. It's a status screen blasting the weapon's name, its level, and the skills it comes with right onto the screen. He reads the name out loud, Demon Sword Asaro, right as the young girl finally speaks up. She blurts out a heartfelt thank you, still shaking from the fact that he saved her life. He waves off her apology in a flash, insisting it's truly nothing. Honestly, he's just relieved he finally got to matter and help someone out. His gentle words hit her like a wave, and she's left utterly speechless. Then she steps in and offers to heal him on the spot, right there, proving she's a cleric who wields healing magic. The moment she raises her staff, that orb ignites in a searing glow, like it's begging to unleash the spell. She kicks off her chant, and her voice crackles with this wild, intense fervor. Hirotica stares, totally thrown off, because her performance is so dramatic it feels almost impossible. But her focus snaps, panic twists every thought into strain. Her eyes start spinning in panic as she desperately tries to force the words out. The spell explodes in her face, and she clenches her teeth, furious and defeated. She can only blurt a frantic apology as Hirotaka leans in, demanding to know if she's okay. With her head bowed in pure shame, she finally admits it. Once again, she was completely useless. Tears spill into her eyes as she admits her anxiety always takes control, right when her healing magic is supposed to work. She slumps there, crushed, fully convinced she's worth less than some measly potion. And to her jaw-drop surprise, Hirotaka actually nods along, like he's on the same page as her. He clears the air and asks point-blank if she's really so powerless she can't use her magic. The girl admits her anxiety, and the way she blames herself are the exact reasons she keeps failing. It's all because she's hanging on by a thread, desperate to be useful, terrified of letting expectations down. Hirotaka just nods and tells her, "Thanks for worrying about me. You're the best medicine I could ever hope for." He then urges her to go again, telling her she's fine no matter what, because failing doesn't mean anything. That simple permission to fail just shuts her up completely. He smiles because he can tell she's never been treated with kindness like this before. With fresh fire in her chest, she clamps down on her staff like it's her lifeline. She shuts her eyes tight and starts her chant again, voice rock steady like she means business. Hirotaka watches in awe as she summons a sacred power like it's about to shake the world. She summons the power to erase his pain, and with a fire of fresh resolve in her voice, she commits, no backing down. A soothing golden glow wraps around Hirotaka as she lands her healing spell, and the hurt begins to fade. He stares in shock as the light bends around his wounds and erases them completely. His healing isn't just done, his arm is sparkling spotless, and he's grinning like an idiot because it's exactly the kind of win he loves. A single tear slips down her cheek as the truth hits. She could have done all of this the whole time. Hirotaka beams and thrusts her hand out, landing a high five with a grin to celebrate their win. She freezes for one heartbeat, utterly rattled by that one tiny gesture. But she clasps his hand with a bright smile, riding that triumphant moment right alongside him. Pure relief hits her like a burst of sunshine, and happiness lights up her face. And Hirotaka can't stop himself. When he sees her real joy lighting up her face, it hits him in the heart as absolutely endearing. Once the threat finally dies down, Hirotaka freezes because it hits him. He has no idea what her name is. She pops in with a confident "I'm Lies," and right back at her, he flashes his own name, Hirotaka. But Lee's eyes snap to the weird weapon still clenched in his hand. He grins as he explains it's the demon sword Asaro, pure junk that's still ridiculously powerful, until her whole face twists with sheer horror. She panics and blurts out whether he's really the wielder of the demon's sword, only to leave him totally baffled. As she tries to explain, terror hits her mid-sentence, because that blade is the legendary mark of the Demon King himself. Far away, deep inside a dark, ominous castle, where danger lurked in every shadow. A shadowy figure lunges in and demands to know what was just said about the demon's sword being lost. A subordinate groans that every time he manages to piss off the lazy Demon King, Lord Tristan, it turns his life into non-stop chaos. The Demon King roars like thunder, says the sword wasn't lost at all, it was stolen. The Demon King, Tristan, raged as he sowed terror in the air, watching his subordinate cower before him. He declares that the Demon King's pride is something no one can ever take away. To become tougher and break freer than anyone else ever could. His subordinate panics, convinced that any king who lets his sword get stolen is a disgrace. Tristan's fury finally snaps, silent rage burns like wildfire in his chest. He blasts out a devastating surge of power, roaring at them to track down the thief who stole his blade. The blast slams his subordinate into the air, and all they can do is groan at the mess this turned into. As she rockets through the sky, she can't stop wondering, who in the world dared to steal the demon sword Asaro? She hits the ground with a murderous glare and vows to personally hunt down whoever's behind this. Back in the human world, Lee finally snaps to it. What he found is way more terrifying than he ever imagined. While they're on the move, Lee tries to wrap his head around the fact that Hirotaka found that sword totally by chance. She shoves her panic down fast because deep in her gut she knows he can't possibly be the real Demon King. But the title alone leaves Hirotaka totally dumbfounded. He remembers why they dragged him into this, because he's the one meant to crush the 7 Demon Kings and save this world. He whips around to Lei and demands to know if the Demon King is really as evil as everyone keeps screaming about. She doesn't even blink, she flat out confirms it, saying that he once wiped out an entire nation. Hirotaka locks eyes on the blade, and it hits him at last. The Demon King's real power isn't a rumor, it's right here in this weapon. He can't stop thinking, getting kicked out of the hero party might have been the best break of his life. But Lisa's voice yanks him out of his thoughts like a sudden jolt. She fires the question at him. What's he planning to do now that he's got a weapon this dangerous in his hands? Lies can only paint the wielder of the demon sword as a monster, then it taps that power just to feed the user's selfish desires. Hirotaka nods and admits it. If he really has power like this, he could probably pull off anything he sets his mind to. With that thought burning in his head, he makes up his mind and commits. He breaks into a confident smile and promises, straight up, that he'll take care of this weapon like it's precious. Lee gapes in total disbelief, staring back like his brain can't even process a single word he just heard. He tells you that the moment he was stranded and nobody could help, this sword swooped in and saved his life twice. To him, Asaro isn't just a weapon, it's a partner, and he vows to handle it with real care. His honest, heartfelt confession hits Lies like a thunderclap. She realizes this incredible person is flipping everything she thought she knew about that terrifying demon sword. And suddenly she can't stop thinking, what if she's the one who can change too? Lee steps up and offers her skills, bragging that she can heal with magic, and brings a whole lot more knowledge to the table. With shaky courage in her chest, she blurts out, "Can I come with you as your companion?" She even swears she'll do anything at all, to be useful to him. Hirotaka shuts her down instantly, firm, blunt, and so fast it leaves her completely stunned. She's left totally baffled, like she can't shake the feeling that friends are meant to help each other. He makes it crystal clear, he doesn't want her leaning on him like her whole world depends on his next move. He tries to talk himself out of it, saying he's got no real talent, just extra weight she'd have to carry. But Lai slips his hand into hers and insists, with a calm smile, that none of it is true. She tells him, your trash-picking talent isn't worthless, it turns other people's throwaways into gold. And to her, that means she's holding a power that's not just kind, it's absolutely wonderful. Her kind words slam Hirotaka into complete silence. He clamps his hand around hers, silently accepting her offer with no words at all. With a grateful smile he thanks her, and a tiny white creature lies there, calm as can be, right in front of them. Just as their moment hits its peak, a newcomer with cat ears bursts in, eyes blazing, smiling like crazy, and she's thrilled that Hirotaka has no class. Before he even has time to blink, she yanks him up and drags him away with shocking, unstoppable strength. Lies can only shout his name as they drag him away against his will. That strange girl yanks him forward at an impossible pace, and even her Lies start scrambling to keep up. She finally snaps him onto the ground without a word, then proudly declares, "We're here." She beams as she greets them at her guild, the White Cat's Perch. Rona steps forward and calls herself the guild master, while Lisa hustles in the background, tending to the dazed Hirotaka. She shoves a registration form right in his face and dares him to join her guild as an adventurer. Guilds are where adventurers group up, grab their missions, and chase quests for cold, hard cash. But Hirotaka and Lizzie are left totally stunned by this sudden proposition, like, what just happened? They sweep their eyes across the guild hall and find it totally, brutally empty. It's so dead quiet you can barely believe anyone ever manages to send them a request. Hirotaka nervously leans in and demands to know, for real, how many members she's got. Awkward silence slams into the space between them, heavy as a curse. Rona sweet-talks him into it, promising to let him rent a room on the second floor if he agrees to join. She grins and admits they've got tons of spare rooms, because there's literally nobody else here. She pushes him again, and Hirotaka snaps back, reminding her, no, his real name is Hirotaka. After thinking it over, Hirotaka nods and agrees to register. Rona erupts in pure joy, throwing a celebration for her very first classless wanderer. Her sudden surge of energy smacks Hirotaka straight off balance, leaving him stunned. Lies can't help but press him. Are you really sure you want to join a guild this beaten down? But Hirotaka admits that having a spotless, well-kept place to crash makes everything so much easier. He can't ignore it. If Rona's going all out to recruit them, then this guild has to matter to her more than anything. Rona gets it. She knows that having a place where you're truly valued is always a win. Her sincere words soften Hirotaka's expression and tug a gentle smile onto his face. With gratitude pouring out of her, she thanks him again and again for showing up. She smiles sweetly and warns that if he ever dares to step out again, she'll plaster embarrassing drawings of him all over town. Once the paperwork's done, Rona slaps down their official guild cards like it's showtime. Hirotaka swings his gaze to Lisa, and she grins, telling him she's good with whatever call he makes. But the moment her name hits his ears, confusion flashes across Rona's face like a sudden spark. The guildmaster clenches her thoughts, dead sure she's heard that name somewhere before, like it's trapped behind her memories. Meanwhile, Hirotaka flips over his brand new adventurer ID card, staring it down like it's about to change everything. A sly smile blooms across his face the moment he realizes he's got a brand new title. Then it hits him he's not alone anymore, because Lise and Asaro are standing right beside him. Rona scans Lee's registration, and the moment she spots it, her eyes blow wide with shock. One name on that paper snaps everything into place, and the shock hits like thunder. She blurts out Lisa's full name, Montagny, so loud it leaves the poor young cleric mortified. Rona jabbed a finger and accused him, right there, spilling the truth that Lai is the lord's daughter of this very city. Lise starts panicking mid-sentence, blurring out that she's only a cleric on a training journey, while Rona's breath catches as the truth finally clicks. Rona clocks the whole situation and promises to keep Lisa's identity under wraps for now. But her mind is already spinning. She sees this as the perfect chance to win favor and pull in real funding for her guild. She snaps the topic away in an instant and fires off, "So what are we naming the new party, you two?" Hirotaka totally gets blindsided, because he never once thought a party name would even be a thing. Rona explains that most adventurers choose names like battle banners, each one shouting their goals or the traits that make them who they are. After thinking it through, Hirotaka decides their guiding rule is simple: a chill, no-stress work-life balance. Lee's watch is strapped on, and her new companion is mid-debate, fighting tooth and nail about workers' rights like it's life or death. With their philosophy finally locked in, Hirotaka hammers out the perfect name for their new crew, the Garricuters. Lise clings to the memory of her kindness, realizing that when someone told her it was okay to mess up, it lit a spark of courage, and she finally tried. Rona shoots in a celebratory fist bump to lock the deal for good. But the moment Garricator's name hits, those liars snap red-faced and totally flustered. She panics, desperately trying to snatch that suggestion back, mortified that he even said the name. But Hirotaka is practically buzzing with excitement at the thought. So he stands up and officially announces the birth of their new party, the Garricuters. He flashes a confident thumbs up, brimming with readiness to unveil the real heart and soul of a junk collector to the whole world. His unstoppable optimism lights up Lisa's face with a warm, genuine smile. Rona's voice turns razor-sharp as she declares that her guild's entire destiny now hangs on his shoulders. He smirks at the challenge and throws himself into hard work, determined to build their new life and earn their new home. Rona wipes out in the background, while Hirotaka roars that their new life kicks off tomorrow. As dawn breaks, he slams into motion. There's no time like right now to get to work. Back inside the guild hall, he leans in and tells his new companions, "There's one thing I've got to do first." He shoots his hand out and flips the switch on his crazy, unique power, garbage picking. Rona stares in pure intrigue, admitting she's never come across a power like his before. Lee breaks it down. This insane skill can hunt down rare, valuable items like they're calling its name. Ataka is praying for one more lucky pull, just like the demon sword of sorrow. The three of them cling to the edge of their seats as the energy starts to gather and take shape. A blinding flash erupts, announcing that his brand new item has finally arrived. But when he finally gets his prize, it's a total letdown, just a random pair of Freely underwear. Hirotaka just freezes, totally mortified, staring at his latest pull like it's cursed. His fresh companions are just as stunned as he is, except Rona, who's practically delighted by the whole thing. He scrambles to insist this isn't what he wanted at all, but Lacey looks at it like she just struck gold. But as the underwear drops, something else bursts free from inside it. A battered, tattered scrap of paper tumbles down like it's fighting for its life. Lee snatched it up, eyes wide, buzzing with curiosity about what it was hiding. Hirotaka and Rona sprint over, desperate to see what Rona uncovered. She blurts out that it's basically a treasure map, then everyone's jaw drops in pure shock. She says the trail points straight to the grave of a legendary magician hidden in the nearby Ulika Valley. She lifts it high so everyone can see, then taps the spot and points out the exact words that spell out where the treasure is. Hirotaka can barely get out a whisper, his mind spinning as the wild promise of treasure crashes over him. The moment his imagination kicks in, it paints a wild vision, his chest spilling gold and jewels like a treasure waterfall. Fired up like a spark, he declares they have to go, because to him, this is the ultimate otherworld adventure waiting to explode. But Rona slams him back to reality fast, reminding him he's got guild duties to handle. Hirotaka counters with fire in his voice, insisting that landing a legendary treasure would be the best possible publicity for their guild. Rona grits her teeth and agrees, then makes him swear he'll put his own life first before chasing any riches. Lee reined in her worry because she could already feel it. The tomb would be packed with monsters. She spots a dark stain on the map and, terrified it's a sick reminder of the previous owner's fate, she just can't shake the dread. But Hirotaka won't flinch. He's convinced that with Asoro's power and Lizzie in his corner, they'll make it out just fine. With a fierce grin, he snaps that their path is locked in, then they're going treasure hunting, no turning back. With his brand new party finally together, Hirotaka throws his arm out and points them straight toward their first big adventure. And just like that, he and Lies tore off toward the legendary tomb of Kion. But when they see how huge their destination truly is, both of them freeze speechless, completely stunned. A colossal gate looms ahead of them, so grand, it feels like it doesn't belong to any tomb at all. Lee realizes it's basically ancient ruins, and that only makes Hirotaka's excitement for the treasures inside explode even more. Right before they step in, she spots the brand new custom sheath built for his demon sword. Hirotaka flashes a smug grin and proudly says he had the item shop owner craft it, because he's convinced Asoro deserves nothing less than the best. He gently rubs the hilt with affection, grinning because his partner, S, finally getting the care she deserves. But just as they finally get their piece, a monstrous skeletal guardian crawls into view and rips the comm apart. The creature yanks out its massive blade, bracing to cut down any intruders who dare step into the tomb. The moment the undead guardian bursts out, both of them are thrown into full-blown panic. Hirotaka tries to steady his breath, but Lee won't let him, says this isn't the moment to stay composed. A skeletal monster towers over them, those hollow eyes glaring like it's seconds away from ending everything. But as Hirotaka's fear crumbles, steel-hard resolve takes its place, and he draws his blade. The creature rockets forward, bony claws flaring as it lunges in to rip them apart. With one brutal swing of the demon's sword, Hirotaka obliterates the monster completely. Lise can only stare as that pile of bones crashes down, like the threat got wiped out in the blink of an eye. She showers him with praise for his insane power, and he flashes a confident peace sign like he's got everything under control. But before he can even finish celebrating, a surge of dark energy crawls up from the monster's wreckage. That weird aura condenses into blazing, glowing letters, and suddenly it hits. He's just unlocked a brand new skill. He spots the news that Asoro just snagged a brand new skill, then freezes, utterly confused by the weird name, Undead Attribute Grant ****. Lee looked totally lost when she admitted she'd never even heard of a power that could turn an opponent undead. Hirotaka blurts out in shock, asking why anyone would ever want to turn a hated enemy into some immortal nightmare. He shrugs it off like it's nothing, convinced it's a dead-end skill he'll never have to use. But Asoro suddenly writhes in his grip, like his dismissal just lit a fire under her. The blade shoots out again, only this time it swells into a massive, jagged greatsword. Both he and Lies can only freeze in pure awe as those weapons transform into something terrifyingly new. He heaves at that massive blade, barely keeping it up, then he can't help but stare, shocked at how fast his partner keeps getting bigger. With that hard, determined stare, he realizes he'll have to start training, right now, just to keep up with what's coming. A calm voice slices through the moment, telling him there's no need for that, just as a mysterious figure finally steps out of the shadows. The figure drops her disguise, and there she is, a dark-haired elf, glaring like she's ready to tear you apart. Hirotaka and Lies jerk to attention the moment she bursts in out of nowhere, and everyone's on high alert instantly. She shoots her hand up and yells that they're moments from becoming ash. Lee warns that a magical light is coming, and Hirotaka braces himself for round 2. The elf snaps out a bizarre power and declares, "I am the Demon King of Sloth." But her grand entrance instantly faceplants her plans. she trips and slams her foot right onto Hirotaka's head. She won't back down, she fires off her grand declaration again, just as fierce as before. All three of them lock eyes in a twisted, wordless standoff, like the world just went silent. Hirotaka can only stare, terrified she might be another monster, while Liz is way more focused on the fact that she's barefoot. Then the elf steps forward and introduces herself as Rachel, an adventurer on a mission with one goal: bring down the Demon King. She jabs a finger at Hirotaka and demands to know if the weapon in his grip is the demon's sword. She whips back in a flash, insisting this can only mean one thing: he's the Demon King himself. Hirotaka yanks out his guild card in a panic, swearing up and down that he's nothing but a brand new adventurer. She straight up ignores him and starts a fierce chant. Fire instantly swirls into her hand. Liz could only sit there, trembling in absolute terror. She spots that intricate incantation and realizes it can only belong to an absurdly powerful magician. The elf glares at them, poised to unleash a devastating attack. Hirotaka's jaw drops as everything spirals out of nowhere, faster than he can even process. Right when she's about to seal the spell, her footing slips, and she goes tumbling, breaking her focus mid-cast. With a pathetic thud, she crumples face first onto the cold stone floor. The so-called Demon King is sprawled, utterly still, like the cold stone stole the fight right out of him. Hirotaka and Liz can only gape in shock as they realize she didn't collapse from a fight, she crumpled from pure, starving hunger. The sheer insanity of it all hits them like a punch, and neither of them can even speak. After they trade bites of food, the elf stumbles out a flimsy apology for the brutal way she barged in. She snaps that they should have just said, "We're not your enemy," while Hirotaka fires back that he was trying to do exactly that. As she bites into her food, Rachel can't help but smile. Sure, she didn't land the Demon King, but snagging his sword is still a huge win. Hirotaka snaps back to her name and the mission she swore to fulfill, crushing the Demon King. With grim, unshakable resolve, she declares that the Demon King has to be stopped before he unleashes unspeakable suffering on the whole world. The legend of his new weapon slams into Hirotaka again, like a wave crushing his chest. But just as worry claws at him, their new acquaintance tears into an absurd mountain of food, and his concern gets swallowed whole. Hirotaka clutches his empty bag, tears streaming down his face as he wails that she devoured every single one of his snacks. Liz tells them that a mage's mana is locked to what they eat, so the way Rachel keeps stuffing herself isn't greed at all, it's proof of her terrifying, massive power. As Lee is blown away by the magician's raw power, Hirotaka just can't buy it, he's completely unconvinced. Rachel flashes a smug grin and confirms her insane mana reserves, then drops the bombshell that she's a descendant of the legendary magician Kayan. The moment Lizzie realizes she's tied to the tomb's owner, her whole world goes silent, she's completely stunned. But if you trace her family tree for even a second, you'll see she's not a direct bloodline at all, she's the apprentice of a disciple's apprentice. Then she casually drops the bomb that she's a former S-rank adventurer too, and it immediately drives Hirotaka up the wall. He leans in and asks if she's got any companions riding along on her quest. A dark shadow sweeps over Rachel's face as she drops her gaze to her ripped, worn-out clothes. She tells him her party crumbled because they were sure a weak member would just pull everyone else under. She declares, loud and fearless, that on this journey she doesn't want a single companion tagging along. Her words slam into Hirotaka and Lee so hard they're left totally stunned. She snaps at them to get out because something brutal is hiding deep inside these ruins. Hirotaka had seen this nightmare before, her gear got ripped away, and all she had left were rags. He can't stop himself from asking if that's why she's dressed so strangely, and it instantly turns Lisa's face scarlet. But his blunt question hits like a spark, and she erupts, shouting that she's been humiliated. That single word detonates a flustered panic in everyone around him, but Hirotaka doesn't even blink, he's completely unbothered. Rachel bursts into a jaw-dropping story, how they stole her freedom and pinned her down as undead hands clawed her apart. Hirotaka shoots in and interrupts her with a sharp yell, saying her vivid story has no place anywhere near Lisa's ears. But everyone reads his outburst all wrong, she just thinks his stern face is straight-up adorable. Rachel peers down at them and says they must be insanely skilled just to make it this far. But Hirotaka just grins and tells her, don't stress about them. He raises his blade and roars that Acero is nothing like the monsters they've dreamed of, he's far more terrifying. Rachel shrugs off his bravado and presses him hard, what power does that demon's sword really have? She lays it out, there are 7 swords like this in the whole world, and each one is packed with terrifying, world-shaking power. Hirotaka admits he's not even sure how it works, but one thing's crystal clear, when he beats an enemy, their abilities somehow get swallowed by him. The elf finally gets it. Every time he swings harder, the sword grows stronger from the very fear and fury he's feeding into the fight. A hand shoots out of nowhere, reaching straight for him. And when he looks up, Rachel stands over him, brimming with a fresh, unshakable resolve. Her mind snaps back to a scene of sheer ruin, an entire city wiped out under the Demon King's terrifying power. The memory crashes through her mind like lightning, and she clutches her head as terror floods her whole body. She clings to one thing above all, her identity as a genius magician. And it was her duty to plant her feet, draw her courage, and fight back. But since she hesitated and didn't act, her comrades vanished, one by one, leaving nothing but loss behind. Now she's locked onto one brutal goal: finish off the Demon King, no matter what it costs. She's convinced that if she messes up this duty, her whole life collapses into nothing. And she refuses to let this chance slip away. With a razor-sharp glare, she snaps that the demon's sword has to be destroyed, no exceptions. Her sudden burst of intensity slams Hirotaka like a wave, leaving him utterly stunned. She snarls for the weapon, daring him to hand it over, or else she'll be watching his final adventure unfold. Hirotaka's eyes pop wide with instant disbelief as her sudden threat hits like a punch. His hand snaps shut around the sword's hilt like it already knows the fight is coming, as he flat out refuses to abandon his trusted partner. But Rachel's eyes stay ice cold and locked forward, unshaken. She kicks off a fresh chant, summoning the great spirit of water with every beat of her voice. Hirotaka can only stand there, completely stunned as her incantation rips through the air. When the water lashes around her, he snatches up leaves and howls for her to sprint. But the elf won't let them slip away. He vows to wipe them out. She scoops the water up and whips it into a gigantic swirling orb packed with pure, destructive fury. With one last fierce glare, she coils her strength and prepares to unleash a devastating water arrow strike. Hirotaka lunges over Lisa, throwing his whole body between her and the spell as it slams down. The impact hits like a thunderclap and they get thrown, tumbling hard across the stone floor. He jerks his gaze up in total shock, trying to wrap his mind around the brutal force of her attack. The tomb's entrance has been ripped clean off, blasting a huge gaping hole through the ruins. He demanded, "Can you still run?" And when she gave him a shaky yes, his nerves went wild. Cornered with nowhere else to go, the two of them bolt deeper into the tomb's choking darkness. Behind them, Rachel stands unshaken in the middle of the steam and the wreckage. Her icy stare drills into them as they vanish into the crumbling ruins. After sprinting for what feels like forever, they finally skid to a stop and gulp air to catch their breath. Hirotaka realizes they've got to vanish into hiding and regroup, because her attack bought them just enough time to survive. But the moment they turn that corner, Hirotaka freezes dead in his tracks, because what he sees next makes no sense. A massive, perfectly cooked chunk of meat just sits there, steaming like a dare right in the heart of the ancient ruins. Even with everything feeling weird, his stomach betrays him, growling at that irresistible sight. Lies instantly smells a trap, and Hirotaka can't help but nod along. He boldly claims that nobody in their right mind would ever be dumb enough to fall for something that obvious. But right then, a familiar figure is already latched onto the giant meal, taking a huge, fearless bite. It's Rachel, and somehow she slips past them, then springs the trap in an instant. But just as they're about to reunite, a sudden burst of crackling energy rips the moment away. The elf's eyes bulge with pure terror when she finally clocks the mistake she just made. That huge slab of meat was a trap all along, and the moment it triggers, it blasts apart with a violent, earth-shaking explosion. Hirotaka can only scream in disbelief as everything flips upside down in an instant. When the smoke finally clears, the giant chunk of meat is just gone, leaving the three of them standing alone in the empty chamber. Soot smeared all over Rachel as she bursts out, yelling at them to get ready right now. With a sharp, unblinking glare, she slams down a temporary truce. Hirotaka is left totally stunned by her sudden shift of heart. She finally snaps and tells you the monster that crushed her is here, right on cue. A fresh surge of terror slams into Hirotaka's face. Right in front of them looms a terrifying undead skeletal mage, the White. Rachel leans in and tells you this isn't just some monster, it's a high-ranking necromancer, the kind that commands the dead. Lee tells him to watch his step, because creatures like that don't just show up, they swing with devastating magic. Rachel rages, screaming that the monster pulled a cheap imitation of her magic just to trick her. She clenches her power and demands the creature hand back the stolen equipment, right now. A massive blast of magical power erupts from her hands like a living storm. Hirotaka and Lizzie stare in disbelief as pure, jaw-dropping power explodes on the scene. Lee's attack figures in like a thunderclap, and this time that monster's going down for good. Dark energy suddenly erupts from the smoke, whipping forward like a living curse. Rachel gets swallowed up by it, and a brutal, pained scream tears out of her. Hirotaka can only blurt her name in pure panic. When the dust finally clears, she crumples to the ground, completely beaten. The white bursts out of the smoke, unshaken and totally unfazed by her attack. Hirotaka bolts to her side the second Rachel admits it's a grim situation. She realizes the monster's cloak cancels her magic dead in its tracks, and suddenly she's left totally powerless. A cold white blur hangs over the defeated elf, circling in close, like it's about to end her life for good. It slams into her head, blasting a surge of dark, crackling energy that surges through her. Lise can do nothing but shriek her own name, death-level terror slamming into her like a wave. Hirotaka rockets in at the very last second, slamming his bare hand across the attack to stop it cold. Rachel can only stare, frozen in shock, as his reckless heroics explode right in front of her. Magic bites into his arm until it's raw to the bone, and he erupts with a scream of pure, unbearable agony. After he finally crushes the monster, he immediately drops to his knees and apologizes for wrecking her stolen equipment in the chaos. She can't stop herself from wondering why would he risk everything just to save her. She declares with zero hesitation that getting back her stolen gear is her responsibility and her fight to win no one else's. As a genius magician, she's dedicated her whole life to that role, so he had zero right to butt in. But Hirotaka shuts her down on the spot, snapping that her role has absolutely nothing to do with what's happening. He flashes a smile and reminds her she asked for a truce, so for now they're stuck as unlikely companions. And as her companion, he tells her it's only natural. Then he jumps in to help her, and Rachel is left utterly speechless. But just as they're about to enjoy it, a weird sound blasts in from across the chamber and kills the moment on the spot. Rachel's eyes blow wide with disbelief at what she's seeing. Lee was trembling in horror, staring at the scene in front of them, unable to make sense of what they were seeing. The white remains twitched to life, and its split body slowly reknit itself, piece by piece, like it refused to stay dead. Lise snaps back that no healing magic on Earth should be strong enough to fix a wound like that. One like that would be fatal. The white is back at full power, and Lise freezes in horror, because it has completely revived. Hirotaka just can't stop ranting. An immortal enemy is pure unfairness. The word immortal keeps slamming into his mind as he scrambles to understand what's really going on. Lise panics and bolts forward because with no road to victory against that monster, she can only run. But Hirotaka snaps around with sudden confidence, grinning as he declares, "I can win this." He drives the demon's sword into the ground, and a ruthless new plan snaps into place in his mind. He still remembers the technique Asaro just picked up, the very one he dismissed as totally useless. He realizes that if he can strip the monster of its undead curse, he'll finally crush it for good. Rachel shot back a warning, throwing yourself at the white's magic straight on is pure recklessness, demon's sword or not. But Hirotaka holds his ground and tells his companions, "Don't worry, everything's gonna be okay." He tells them both to hang back, dead serious, says it's way too dangerous for them to come any closer. Rachel can only stare, still reeling from the way he threw himself forward, without asking for anything in return. She fires back, stunned. Why would he gamble everything for a person he just met? Lise tells him Hirotaka just can't walk past someone in trouble, he has to step in. As he readies himself, the demon's sword starts pulsing with a brand new, unsettling surge of power. Lise fires off a defensive spell, and he turns to her with a grateful smile, thanking her for having his back. With a protective glow blazing all around him, Hirotaka launches himself headfirst at the immortal monster. Rachel stares in stunned silence, and the moment she realizes what it really takes to beat the Demon King, her whole quest suddenly feels impossible. Her mind snaps back to that old party, flashing those moments when they pushed her to grow into the adventurer she became. And that's how they pulled her heart back into place, teaching her the power of true companionship. But then her party leader abruptly announced, "We're done," and that hope instantly shattered into dust. Her comrades sneered at her like she was dead weight, insisting they only wanted a quick way to make money. They told her only a genius could keep it together and handle it all by herself. And she had no choice but to swallow the truth. This was the road fate had locked in for her. If their roles weren't what they were, then fate wouldn't let them stand together. In the present, the white rockets forward and slams into Hirotaka with an all-out attack. But something snaps behind him in an instant, and he's left completely stunned. Rachel steps right in front of him, and this time her resolve is iron strong. He tells her straight up that her magic won't do a thing, because she's just going to burn through her mana and collapse again. But she just hits him with, so what? What does that even have to do with anything? She's reminding him of his own words, because now they're companions for real. So if that's the truth, then now it's her time to step in and help him. She hurls a tiny crystal onto the ground, tossing out a world-shaking earth spell. A brutal wall of stone explodes up from the floor, slamming shut and blocking the White's attack. Rachel dumps every last ounce of her power into the defensive barrier. That stone wall doesn't budge. Every smash from the monster hits it and fails. Lee can only freeze, staring in pure shock at the raw, mind-blowing force of her magic. But then she spots something deadly important about the monster, right when it matters most. The moment the White smashes through that wall, its magic-nullifying cloak gets ripped to shreds. Lee jolts with a gasp as he realizes Rachel's magic has surged past the monster's defenses and is crushing them. The elf dug her heels in, standing her ground as a dim aura flickered around her battered, exhausted body. She clenches her teeth and swears it. Her mana is nearly gone, and she knows it. But the White is already on her heels. Its shredded cloak can't shield her anymore. With her final ounce of strength, she grabs Hirotaka's attention and tells him the rest is on him now. He snaps into action and hammers the demon's sword down with everything he's got. With a furious roar, he summons Asaro's power, tearing the undead curse away for good. He unleashes one last desperate roar, like the world is about to end. As the blade slices cleanly through the monster's body, the creature's skull explodes into shards, and its immortal life finally snaps shut for good. A pale, spotty chunk crumbled apart, then it melted away into a choking cloud of dark dust. And just like that, the immortal monster is wiped away. Then all that's left is a brutal, eerie silence. Hirotaka and Lee can only freeze and stare, praying they really crushed it for good this time. A wave of pure relief crashes over him as he erupts in celebration for their hard-fought victory. He snaps his head toward Lies, demanding she heal Rachel, who's bleeding from the fight. Lies snaps her spell into place, and a soft healing glow surges over the battered elf, lifting them back from the brink. But Rachel's face stays icy, cold, unreadable, like she's hiding everything behind a perfectly still mask. Now that the White is beaten, she grabs the moment and tells him, before this truce expires, she's got one question she has to ask. She blurts out his name and demands he tell her the truth, no lies, no dodging. She demands to know why, after she struck him, he still wouldn't let go of the demon's sword. Hirotaka flashes a grin, clutches the blade tight, and tells Asaro straight up that she's his partner. His simple, heartfelt honesty finally cracks her tough exterior wide open. She flat out says she'll ignore the demon's sword he's brandishing, for now. But her mercy comes with one razor-sharp condition: no exceptions. She grabs his attention and begs him to join her as she hunts down the Demon King. That shocking proposal drops out of nowhere, and Hirotaka and Lies are left totally frozen. No words, just pure disbelief. He starts to stammer out a no, but she cuts him off, saying she doesn't need an answer from him, right now. She clocks the look on him and can tell he's the type who'd rather dodge a mess like this than touch it. And just like that, she says she'll sit tight until he finally flips his mind. She swears she'll wait for him, no matter how long it takes, until he finally accepts her offer. Rachel blurts out, almost in desperation, asking if they can still count as companions. Hirotaka shoots back an instant yes with a huge grin, and the elf quietly murmurs, "Thank you." But she gives a sweet, smiling warning. She swears she'll smash that sword herself the moment he turns it to evil. He flashes his grin and nods like there's no question at all. He takes her terms instantly. Then she pauses and realizes there's no way he's got that lazy streak needed to rule as the Demon King of Sloth. That title smacks Hirotaka like a bad joke. He's stunned, insisting he's nowhere near lazy enough for that. Rachel lanes in and explains, Demon King of Sloth isn't some ancient title, it's just the nickname for the person wielding it right now. She breaks it down like this: every Demon King gets named for what drives them most: greed, wrath, and that defining hunger that makes them who they are. With a cheeky grin, she announces that Hirotaka fits the Sloth title to a T, sending him into instant dismay. He shakes it off, lifts his sorrow like a challenge, and declares, with the truth finally settled, it's time to dive back into treasure hunting. He reminds her why they're here, but Rachel's eyes go wide. Treasure is the one thing she doesn't get. She tells him she's already ripped through these ruins before and came up empty, no sign of anything like that. He raises the map in the air, swearing it'll guide them straight to the thing. Rachel cuts it off on the spot, calling it a fake, and it absolutely blows him away. She remembers getting played by this silver-tongued adventurer who swore he had a one-of-a-kind map, then sold her the exact same one he'd used to scam her in the first place. So she blurts out, "Why are you clinging to my property, Hirotaka?" It hits him like a punch. This fake map he stumbled on is exactly the one she lost. And if that map truly belonged to her, then this is exactly what it means. He raises the frilly underwear, and horror dawns on his face like a punch to the gut. Rachel just stares blankly, completely clueless while his crisis explodes out of nowhere. He tries to brush it all off in a hurry, but his voice fizzles out and vanishes mid-sentence. Back at the guild, Rona's crushed. She hears their treasure hunt went nowhere, and it hits like a sucker punch. She wails that her giant promotional dreams got wrecked, and Hirotica snaps back that they barely made it out alive. But Hirotaka flashes a smile and shrugs it off, saying the treasure turned out to be a bust. A brand new figure bursts through the doorway, and the whole room feels it. And he blurts out that he stumbled on something even more valuable. Rachel shows up in a fresh new outfit and proclaims, loud and fearless, that she's their newest companion. She's absolutely glowing in her brand new outfit, explaining that with zero money for the real gear, he's stuck using whatever he can get. She stares at her own weakness and clenches her teeth, promising she'll level up her way so she can finish her quest for real. Hirotaka steps up and officially introduces Rachel. Then her old S-rank past hits Rona like a truck, leaving him utterly stunned. Rona lunges for her hands on the spot, shouting that this powerful elf is the guild's long-awaited savior. Rachel flashes a confident grin and tells them, loud and clear, that she's thrilled to be on their team. The guildmaster can't stop staring. This dazzling new recruit walks in, and raw power hits them like lightning. Rona is already daydreaming about the spotlight a gorgeous S-rank elf will bring, while Hirotaka grinds his teeth in pure annoyance. He steps up and formally welcomes her to the party, but when she hears the name Garricatters, Rachel can't help but feel totally thrown. He's all in, saying it's a perfect name that screams their determination, because lies, those only dig up cringes and embarrassment. Rachel just shrugs and accepts that weird name with barely a fight. Lee's still stuck in disbelief, trying to process how insane all of this really is. With everything finally quiet at last, Hirotaka suddenly gets slammed by a wave of exhaustion. Rona nods and says they've all busted their backs long enough. Now they finally deserve a real break. Right when they're seconds from parting ways, Hirotaka suddenly calls out to Lies. He thrusts a plain pair of white gloves toward her, holding them out like a lifeline. She stares in disbelief. He snagged gifts for Asaro and Rachel, but she'd been getting nothing until right now. He tells them he clocked that she's always clutching her staff, and he swears his hands started to wonder if her arms were getting sore. He frets that it's a weird gift and tells her straight up she can toss it aside. She doesn't have to take them if she doesn't want to. But right away, she blurts out that she'll do it, then sheepishly admits her hands go clammy the second nerves hit. With a soft, warm smile, Hirotaka tells them good night, then heads straight for his room. Lee watches him leave, and the echo of his footsteps bangs through the silent guild hall. She hugs the gloves to her chest, swallowed by the thought of everything he's already handed her. She can't stop thinking that she hasn't repaid him yet, and it's starting to eat at her. Her thoughts whip back to the tomb. Every second she stayed frozen in terror while he fought like a storm. She still remembers him leaning in, asking if she just wanted to feel useful. But now she finally sees the truth. She wasn't even close to the real answer. To be honest, she wasn't scared of the situation. She was terrified of letting everyone down. But then he thrust his hand out, right when everyone else refused to help. His simple acceptance was the one thing that kept her from falling apart. Because he was the very first person to look at her and tell her, it's okay to fail. And that kindness lit up a brand new fire inside her. She wanted to matter, to be useful for real. Fueled by a fresh purpose, she barges into the room to find Rachel, ready to drink in every secret of magic she can get. But just as she's trying to get back into training, a super casual Rachel pops up in the bath and totally throws her off. Hirotaka snaps to attention when a wild request comes from the other room. He can only grumble that Rachel's already poisoning Lizzie's mind with bad influence. But in the calm of his brand new room, one terrifying thought hits him like a bolt from the blue. He once thought he'd be stuck all by himself forever, then life threw him companions, and the world suddenly wasn't empty anymore. Staring up at the night sky, he can't shake the feeling. His luck has finally flipped in his favor. And just like that, the freshly minted Garricudars step into the world, starting their wild first chapter as full-blown adventurers. They dive into these little quests, and the results swing from total domination to crushing failure, sometimes in the same breath. Their days blur between hard work, deep breaths of rest, and the steady grind of getting used to their brand new home. A few days later, Hirotaka shoots awake, buzzing with excitement to finally meet his new family. But the moment he lays eyes on it, he freezes, because what he sees makes zero sense. The guild hall bursts at the seams as people flood in, all jostling to grab the spotlight. The floorboards groaned under the crushing weight of all those fresh arrivals pouring in. He barrels over to his companions, barking, "What the hell is going on?" Rona's buried neck-deep in paperwork, and she explains, no mercy, that the admin grind just never ends. But she steps up and declares, "No way, this is a massive success." She beams and proudly hoists the flyer she crafted to hype up their guild. Hirotaka's face drains as horror hits. She realizes she's been spreading rumors by drawing them all along. Rachel tells them that the moment adventurers hit the spotlight, their guild explodes in fame too. But the new recruits are already grumbling. Those handsome men from the flyer are nowhere to be seen. Hirotaka can only blurt out, "I'm not the dashing hero you're after." But then a battle-scarred adventurer lifts the flyer and demands, "Tell me, did you really wipe out that monster in Kain's tomb?" Hirotaka can only manage a shaky, nervous "yeah" that barely escapes his mouth. And just like that, the whole crowd explodes with excitement and pure awe. The second he comes out of it, everyone hammers him with questions, how that monster got handled, and what in the world gave him the power to beat it. One of the younger adventurers lines in, practically begging him to spill the entire story from start to finish. One second Hirotaka is getting mocked, the next he's staring at real respect, and it completely floors him. He tries to slip backward through the buzzing crowd, but their wild energy slams into him and leaves him completely overwhelmed. Rachel steps in and fires back, saying skilled adventurers can't help but gravitate toward people who really know their stuff. And for the very first time, the guild hall roars to life, packed with the smiling faces of eager new adventurers. Rachel fires back that he's the one who lit the match. He's the reason the whole crowd went wild. Back behind the chaos, Lee looks totally swamped, like that sudden flood of attention hit him like a wave. She yanks her hood down, mortified that the whole town's whispering about them like they're the main event. One of the adventurers leans in and blurts out, "So what's your rank?" And he's already convinced it's gotta be A or straight up S. But Hirotaka can only swallow the truth. He's stuck as an E-rank nobody. The simple answer hits and the entire crowd goes dead silent, shocked out of their minds. Their awe flips to suspicion in seconds, and suddenly they're wondering if someone just played them for total fools. Right as trouble hits, Rona dives in front of him, declaring loud and clear that his rank isn't random at all. Her sudden intervention only deepens the adventurer's confusion, like she just threw a wrench into the whole plan. She straight up claims Hirotaka keeps his rank down on purpose, burning with a noble urge to help people while refusing to chase fame. She raises a notice for everyone to see, announcing that Hirotaka will take the rank-up exam to meet all of their expectations. The crowd erupts in cheers, sure that no challenge dares him, because he'll crush every single one. Roped into Rona's twisted plan, Hirotaka braces himself to leap straight into the S rank. The day the adventurer exam finally crashes into town is here at last. They push onward to the exam hall, a huge guild fortress everyone fears, the one-eyed bear's den. An examiner barks out the news, "If you crush the written portion, you're marching straight to the reception desk." Other adventurers laugh and banter like they've already crushed the first phase with zero trouble. But Hirotaka and the others look wrecked, like that written test just drained every last bit of them. Rachel slips up to them and whispers, "Stick with me," pushing them to stay close as they try to slip away from the crowd. Hirotaka can't even get a single word out. This exam pressure is crushing him so hard it feels like it's sitting on his chest. Against all odds, the three of them burst into wild celebration because they just cleared the written part of the exam. Hirotaka throws a victory celebration like he just won a war, while Rachel deadpans that it was all way too easy. But a brutal flashback finally exposes why they're really stuck, a quiz show-style blame game where everyone points the finger at the person supposedly holding them back. He still feels every ounce of pain from trying to teach that so-called genius magician even the most basic ideas. But Lees insists their study session was way more fun than anyone thinks. Rachel just smiles at Hirotaka, pinning it on him like, "No, asterisk you asterisk are the one who needs to reflect on your performance." Still, Hirotaka lets out a breath he's been holding, finally relieved they cleared that first hurdle. He's dead set on not letting the whole guild down, because everyone there is waiting on him. With the written test finally in the rearview, they sprint to grab lunch before the practical exam kicks off later that afternoon. Back on the White Cat's perch, the fresh recruits huddle together, trading non-stop gossip about their guild's brand new rising stars. That afternoon, the practical exam kicks off right at the edge of the dense, shadowy Nemolis forest. An examiner leans in and tells them the test isn't a normal exam at all. It's a full-on quest to haul cargo straight to a hidden base buried deep in the woods. To make it through, they've got to wipe out 3 monsters and grab 2 kinds of herbs before they're done. As Hirotaka and Lai stare ahead, a weird feeling hits. They swear this forest looks way too familiar. Their minds snap back to that first meeting, when Hirotaka tore in and saved her from a monstrous bear. He can't help grinning, swearing it feels nostalgic, even though it was just yesterday. Rachel whips her head toward Lee and demands, "Tell me, this is the same forest where I got attacked, right?" She adds that thanks to Hirotaka, a promising young magician got saved that day, only for Lisa to blurt out a flustered denial like she couldn't believe it. Rachel can't help but notice it. Ever since that day, Lee has been grinding magic nonstop. She gently pats the young cleric's head and, as a fellow magic user, tells her she's damn proud of how hard she's been working. Lee can barely get Rachel's name out. He stammers, totally wrecked by the praise. But Hirotaka snaps down her teasing on the spot and presses her to lock in and focus on the exam. As soon as the test kicks off, the other adventurers explode into the forest, desperate to be the first to break through the finish line. But then one of them breaks hard and demands, "Why isn't Hirotaka's crew moving?" He introduces himself as Edgar and drops the truth that he's one of the fresh new recruits from the White Cat's Perch. Hirotaka's jaw drops when he realizes so many of his brand new guildmates are here for the exam. Lately, monster attacks have been exploding, and the kingdom has no choice, so it's been scrambling to hire even more adventurers. Rachel thinks the spike in trouble right now is exactly why Lies got attacked in the same forest. The whole weight of the situation crashes onto Hirotaka's shoulders. He can feel it when the monster count climbs. The threat for everyone spikes 10 times over. He can't shake the feeling that monsters were born just to hunt and smash humans. But he shoves that thought aside like, of course he'd feel that way, because that's just what it means to be a monster. Right then, the whole forest erupts into violent shaking like something huge is on the move. A sudden tremor rips through the place, and everyone freezes in total shock. All the other adventurers explode into blind panic, scattering and sprinting away from whatever menace lurks out of sight. Total chaos explodes because nobody can make sense of what's happening. Lai's senses slammed into an earth-shaking wave of mana, so powerful it dwarfed everything she'd ever felt before. Hirotaka's worst fear hits hard. He's sure a terrifying monster has shown up, and that dark rumor is suddenly real. But Rachel's eyes flare wide as a horrifying realization finally hits her, full force. When danger hits, Hirotaka snaps into action, declaring they have to help, and then charges straight into the chaos. But Rachel's voice slices through the chaos, demanding no, insisting this is all wrong. This power doesn't come from some monster at all. It's fueled by something way more familiar, a horn like one you've seen before. And a tiny demonic tail that bites back. She keeps insisting this isn't what you think it is. A tiny demonic girl slips through the forest like a nightmare, and every step she takes leaves behind a line of defeated adventurers. Hirotaka and Lies can only freeze in place, stunned by the sight of a kid right in the middle of the chaos. But Rachel rips into them with a fierce shout, telling them they're wrong to treat her like she's just a kid. Her gaze snaps onto the girl, and in that instant it hits. She's finally found the answer she's been hunting for. And terror crashes over Hirotaka the moment he realizes it's her again. Right in front of them looms a terrifying powerhouse, their target, one of the 7 demon kings. That single word hangs there and it hits like a punch, confirming their worst fears, a demon king. Her ice-cold reptilian eyes rake across the forest floor, searching like a predator. And she lets out a bored sigh, grumbling that checking on everyone is just too much of a hassle. Then her eyes snap to something out of nowhere, and her face hardens into laser-sharp focus. Rachel can only freeze, horror blooms across her face in real time. The 3 of them are totally stuck, frozen in place, getting absolutely steamrolled. And right at Hirotaka's hip, the eye on the demon's sword Asoro snaps open like a threat unleashed. In the blink of an eye, the demon king rockets through the air, zeroing in on Hirotaka. He's frozen in absolute terror as she barrels closer. She thrusts out her hand, eyes blazing with pure fury, and demands he hand it back. But Rachel's magic snaps into action midair, smashing an explosive shockwave into the sky. The demon king grinds to a halt, her face snapping from raw rage to a sharp, mild annoyance. She waves the attack off like it's nothing, shooting them a sharp warning, don't get in her way. The deflection hits like a punch, launching her through the air, but she drops back down with effortless grace. Rachel can't move, she just stares in pure disbelief, her brain scrambling to make sense of what she's witnessing. Her unstoppable defensive magic snapped in an instant, one single finger was all it took. Lee watches the spell's last sparks crumble away into nothingness. She's trapped in pure terror, frozen stiff, too scared to even keep up with the Demon King's every move. In a split second, the Demon King is on Hirotaka's back, sneering him down as nothing but a worthless human. She snatches the demon's sword by its hilt and fires back, demanding he give back everything he just stole. Hirotaka won't back down. He grabs the moment and demands to know exactly what she's doing. But she lets out a sharp scoff and straight up claims he's the one who needs to answer that question. She steps forward and declares, "I'm Gisela, the Demon King of Sloth," then reveals she's the real contractor behind the demon's sword of sorrow. That revelation absolutely wrecks Hirotaka. His mind goes completely blank. He stammers out a few broken words, trying to wrap his head around what he just heard. Even with shock crashing over him, his grip on that sword doesn't budge. He's still holding on like his life depends on it. With a single effortless yank, she hoists him clean off the ground like it weighs nothing. His companions only manage to scream his name as he gets yanked into the sky. He fights back, but she crushes his resistance. He's drowning in the overwhelming power hiding inside that tiny frame. But the moment she looked at him, her expression softened and she pressed him. Why couldn't he just toss his sorrow aside? Her question shatters his focus and leaves him totally baffled. He clocks it. Gisela wasn't hunting for nothing. She was searching for Asaro, and he must have stumbled into the truth by accident. Now he's convinced that blade has to go back to where it truly belongs. Gisela lunges for the hilt, whispers to her weapon that it's time to go home. But the moment she yanks the blade from its sheath, it refuses to budge, stuck tight like it's fighting her. She lets out a furious cry, but her own sword just won't come loose. Hirotaka can only stare in stunned horror as the weapon snaps out of its master's control. She yanks with everything she's got, but the sword stays bolted to Hirotaka like it's never moving. Broken and battered, she drifts backward while he blurts Asoro's name in total confusion. The Demon King can only stare downward, swallowed by silent rage. Hirotaka can only stare upward, completely stunned and out of answers. Frustration crashes down on her, and it turns into a full-blown, explosive tantrum. As she vows to wipe them all out, rage blazing through her. She lunges forward, teeth clenched, about to unleash her power. But Hirotaka's instincts kick in, and he yanks the blade up fast to defend himself. In his grip, the demon sword's eye suddenly snaps open like it's alive, bursting with a sudden, sinister, dark energy. A sudden burst of power slams into Gisela, stopping her cold in her tracks. The sword's hilt starts squirming again, twisting and transforming like it's alive. It sprouts two more grotesque eyes as it morphs into an even more terrifying form. Gisela could only gawk, her rage snapped into stunned shock in the blink of an eye. Hirotaka freezes in total shock, blurting out his partner's name like he can't believe what he's seeing. But the Demon King's shot erupts in an instant, turning into a full-throttle, furious scream. A monstrous aura detonates around her as she swears to deliver him a brutal, painful end. But Hirotaka stares at the sword like it's the one thing that can give him the green light. With a fresh rush of determination, he vows, no matter what, he'll never pass his sorrow on to anyone. Two of them locked in a brutal standoff, while Rachel watches from the sidelines, unable to look away. Gisela's eyes blaze with pure hatred as she fires off her threat again. But Hirotaka's determination never shakes, not for a single heartbeat. With a furious roar, the Demon King surges forward, claws out, ready to strike. He slams the blade forward with a desperate scream, like his life depends on it. He finally met her assault head-on, straight into the blast. Gisela just lifts a hand, ice in her eyes, like she's already measuring everyone's next move. She unleashes a brutal volley of dark energy, ripping straight through the forest like it's nothing. Her Hirotaka gritted through the sorrow and somehow intercepted every single projectile. But that crushing impact hits so hard it leaves him completely stunned. The Demon King somehow isn't even bothered by it. His defense hits and he just shrugs it off. Their powers slam together, tearing open a furious maelstrom of dark energy. Hirotaka clenched his teeth as the sword's feedback ripped through him with a sharp, stinging jolt. Gisela just stares back, radiating dead-stop boredom like it's the only thing she feels. She realizes her massive power gets wiped out the instant it touches anything. And she slams down the demand, "Tell me what you've done, Hirotaka." He finally clocks it. This new power is called *mana break*, and anything Asoro touches gets its mana completely obliterated. He screams that her attacks are worthless now, then orders her to quit and go home. Suddenly it hits him, this skill that Asaro learned from the White. He'd totally blanked on it until right now. He knows her mana's power isn't endless, but every one of her hits still slams too hard, and he can't last much longer. But the Demon King, he doesn't even flinch at your defiance. Rage flares in her chest as she stares at this mystery power, stunned that a lowly thief can walk around looking so damn proud. She demands, claws in the air, to know how he snatched her sword from the castle. Then he roars back that he didn't steal a thing, he just found it with pure skill. It slams into him she didn't lose her sorrow at all, she tossed it aside herself. That accusation hits Gisela like a lightning bolt. Panic surges through her as she swears she'd never toss her sword away. She blushes and admits the wild truth, she might have just misplaced it for decades. She didn't even realize it was gone until the other Demon King began mocking her. Hirotaka erupts, screaming that forgetting something for that long is the same as tossing it away. Gisela lets out a wild scream right back at him, ripping into him as an idiot for even trying to lecture her. And just like that, the epic battle collapses into a full-on, childish screaming match right in the middle of the forest. From the sidelines, Lee and Rachel can only stare in shock as the wild, bizarre scene erupts in front of them. Rachel looks genuinely impressed that he can stand toe-to-toe with a Demon King, while Lies just shrugs and treats it like a ridiculous argument. Gisela's rage finally melts away when she remembers the days she and Asaro used to share. Most of her fondest memories are the time she used that legendary weapon to crack open cup noodles, and then to scratch her own back like a pro. Their childish fight finally fizzles out, and an awkward silence slams down between them. Gisela finally blows a fuse and snaps, yelling that she's done with all this nonsense for good. Hirotaka hoists his sword high, tensing up like he's about to meet whatever danger comes at him next. But then he blurts out a shout, jabbing his finger toward the horizon, and his focus gets yanked away instantly. A squad of armed soldiers is barreling through the forest, charging right toward them. Lies and Rachel lock eyes, realizing those aren't strangers at all. They're the town's local guard force. The lead soldier roars in disbelief, insisting a child can't possibly have wiped out that many adventurers. He gathers his men in a roar, then barks orders to tear into the little girl. Then a new voice blasts through the chaos, yelling for them to stop, because deep down it's telling them the Demon King isn't someone they can survive. The soldiers snap into stillness, that terrifying title thundering through their minds like a nightmare. But Gisela snaps her thumb shut in her mouth, seething at the interruption. She unleashes the demons of temptation, summoning them with a chilling, dark chant. From the dark shadows, a monstrous beast explodes into existence. Hirotaka can only gape in sheer terror as this new threat crashes down. A pack of winged demons tears out of the sky, swarming the soldiers and locking them in terror. With a cruel grin, Gisela hands her fresh minions a simple, bone-chilling command. Demonic creatures surge forward with deadly intent, crashing into the helpless guards as they're about to rip them apart. The soldiers can do nothing but shriek, utterly crushed by the sudden, brutal assault. Hirotaka stares as chaos erupts all around him, and his mind is going a mile a minute. With a desperate scream, he yells at her to stop, right now. A demonic swarm crashes down out of nowhere, and in a single instant it smashes through helpless soldiers without mercy. But Gisela whips her focus right back to Hirotaka, irritation blazing as she catches him staring anywhere but at her. He whips his blade through the air, begging her to remember, he's the one she's supposed to be fighting. His eyes blaze with desperate protective fury, like he'll fight the whole world to keep you safe. But she snaps his attack away like it's nothing and tells him, if he doesn't hand over that sword, he's going to regret it fast. Then her eyes snap to something new, and that reptilian gaze widens just a touch like she's just spotted her next move. Out of nowhere, her eyes lock onto a tiny dark creature crouched on the forest floor. Seeing that hits the Demon King like a slap to the face, leaving him utterly stunned and completely lost. Hirotaka is just as stumped, staring at what stopped her and begging the question, what in the world could have done that? From the shadows, a chilling new voice rises and smashes the air with a dark, terrifying incantation. It's Rachel summoning the dark art of necromancy with her own hands. She declares, loud and fearless, that the Demon King won't get to do whatever he wants. But her undead minions only scare the soldiers who haven't figured out their so-called allies are already dead. Right then, Lee steps forward and unleashes a sacred power, forging a shield to protect the innocent. She slams down a brutal protection spell, and a shimmering shield locks in place, keeping the soldiers safe from the demonic swarm. Pure determination flashes across her face, her old fear is gone for good. Rachel stares on, shocked that she's not the helpless magician from before anymore. And with her own resolve igniting, Lai swears she'll protect Hirotaka and every single person who matters. Side by side, the two of them face Hirotaka and flat out order him to stay out of this fight. He can only whip his head around in shock and shout their names. Gisela's trapped in Rachel's undead minion's grip, and somehow she looks totally unfazed. She smirks because she spots it instantly. The elf is juggling necromancy, a power so far beyond any normal magician it feels straight up impossible. But Rachel stands her ground, firing back at the Demon King with one brutal truth: she's a genius. Still, she'll admit it straight up, her power by itself doesn't stand a chance against a real Demon King. She whips around to Hirotaka, realizing no matter how hard she fights, she can't take this battle down alone. But she feels it: if he stays right beside her, they just might pull off a miracle. She calls his name, grabs his attention, and declares this is the moment. Right now, they'll team up and take down the Demon King. Hirotaka stares down as the weight of her words slams onto his shoulders. He keeps replaying it in his head. He just wanted a calm, quiet life, and somehow he got tossed straight into this whole mess. But he vows he'll never forgive a single person who dares to lay a finger on his companions. With a furious roar, he slams down his vow. He's going to crush the Demon King of Sloth. Gisela gets blindsided by that bold declaration, like it punched straight through her guard. But the moment her surprise hits, it vanishes fast. She sneers and lets out a condescending laugh. A wicked grin blooms across her face, like she's about to enjoy every second of it. She finds his sudden burst of courage absolutely hilarious. With one explosive surge, she smashes through the undead minions gripping her and sends them flying apart. Rachel shrieks at her warriors, demanding they don't ease up for a single second. Demanding they throw themselves into position to shield Hirotaka. But Gisela just scoffs, brushing the undead off like they're nothing but an annoying nuisance. With one brutal strike, she slices through Rachel's forces like they're nothing. In the blink of an eye, the undead army gets ripped apart. Gisela scoffs, grumbling that the whole situation is just one big hassle. But her stare snaps to something off-screen, her eyes blow wide with shock. Just as her undead attackers swarm closer, she suddenly realizes something's deeply off. A jarring realization hits her: her real target isn't ahead of her anymore. Hirotaka took the opening and slid straight into her blind spot. The Demon King can't do a thing, he just stands there, stunned out of his mind. He used Rachel's undead army like a smoke bomb, then slipped in close while everyone was staring at the dead. With a smug grin, he announces, "Got her now." And with everything he's got, he slams the demon sword Asaro down like it's the end of the world. But right as his blade lunges forward, it shudders to a halt, snared in the Demon King's bare hand like it hit a wall. The shock hits Hirotaka like lightning, and you can see it flash across his face. Gisela smirks at his move and flat out calls his attempt naive. With one sharp shove, she sends him flying backward without a sweat. She sneers down at him, totally unimpressed by every single effort he's made. Hirotaka can do nothing but stare up, sweat pouring down his face as his heart races. He clenches his teeth and refuses to let defeat win. He plants his feet, steels his nerves, and readies himself to launch again. He explodes forward, pouring every last drop of strength into that attack. But his non-stop onslaught hits the Demon King like a bolt out of nowhere. With a desperate roar tearing out of his chest, he pours every ounce of strength he has into one last, do-or-die push. He shoves the demon's sword forward with every ounce of strength he has. And at last, the blade drives through the Demon King's chest, leaving no doubt he's finished. Her eyes go wide with raw shock as cracks spiderweb out around the wound. While she's frozen in shock, Hirotaka bares his teeth and shoves every ounce of will he has into the next strike. Gisela stared down at the blade, and you could see it. She was genuinely impressed that he actually pulled off the hit. But as Hirotaka lands his attack, confidence crumbles, because it does absolutely nothing. A smug, creeping grin spreads across the Demon King's face, like he's already amused by what comes next. She can't get enough of his desperate struggle, it's downright captivating. With one last surge of strength, she declares, "I'll remember your name, Hirotaka." The soldiers stand there, stunned, as the Demon King and her minions disappear like they were never even real. A thunderclap of cheers explodes from the guards, because they swear they just saw the impossible actually happen. But the fight left Hirotaka crumpled. He clutches his side, breathing hard from pure exhaustion. Blood stains his hand as Lee's voice cuts through the panic, shouting his name. He snaps his gaze upward in a stunned daze, and the fight's brutal toll is written all over his face. His companions barreled toward him, faces twisted with shock and raw, worried concern. But he only flashes a shaky little smile, visibly breathing easier now that his friends are safe and totally unharmed. He glances down at his sword, a wave of relief hitting him, because Asaro's okay too. But that sweet relief lasts only a heartbeat, then his body finally crashes and everything gives out. And just like that, he crumples to the ground, while his companions scream his name in pure terror. He's sprawled unconscious on the ground, the fight draining every last drop of him. In the blink of an eye, word about Demon King Gisela's arrival tore through the city. The townspeople froze, fear hit them hard, and disbelief followed right behind. But the story that snags their hearts is the one about the adventurer who tore her down. Back at the guild, Rona is straight up losing her mind, buzzing with pure, unstoppable excitement. She showers Hirotaka with non-stop praise for every single move he makes, and it drives him absolutely crazy. One of the younger adventurers gets hit so hard by emotion that tears spill out, and poor Hirotaka is left completely stunned. She told me straight up when she saw his injuries, panic hit her hard, and she worried her magic wouldn't be able to fix him. The thought that he might be dead hit her like a body blow. She couldn't survive it. Her heartfelt tears hit him like a wave, and our boy goes completely flustered, totally stuck on what to do next. He stumbles through broken words, blurting out if she couldn't have tossed him a little more encouragement. Rachel just gapes at him, trying to figure out if he's really doing some kind of weird baby talk act. The other adventurers told him the truth. He'd been out cold for 3 brutal days, and everyone was panicking like crazy. He rushes to apologize to Rona, and before the words even land, she snaps back that she was only worried about the guild's reputation. Rachel steps forward and says, "I need to thank you properly again." She flashes a smile and calls it a miracle, driving off the Demon King without a single casualty. The younger adventurer can barely tear his eyes away, stunned into the truth. He just witnessed something so incredible it feels unreal. But Hirotaka swears it's all his fault, because he didn't bring Asoro back, and now he's putting everyone at risk. One more adventurer steps up and takes the fall, snapping that he's the one who stupidly called the guards in the first place. But then a senior guild member slams in, cutting them off, and he swears that every last one of them fought like heroes against a threat nobody could name. Lee snaps her gaze up at him, and quiet worry creases her face. Her hesitation snaps in half, and a fierce new resolve surges in like a signal flare. She tells him with real relief that she's actually glad he never gave up the demon's sword. Her sudden declaration slams right into Hirotaka like a tidal wave, leaving him completely stunned. Lee explains that at first, the blades pulled to the Demon King made her absolutely terrified. But now she finally gets it. Asaro isn't just a weapon anymore, he's her partner. With a glowing, relieved grin, she tells him she's just happy he didn't have to lose something that mattered that much. Rachel jumps in from the side, nodding hard and backing the young cleric without holding back. She says that if he ever planned to ditch a companion, she never would have agreed to follow him in the first place. Hirotaka can't even find words because their support hits him so hard it leaves him utterly speechless. He just freezes there, mouth hanging open, totally speechless. He squeezes out one quiet, heartfelt "thank you" because that's all he can manage. The other adventurers nodded hard, and you could tell they truly respected how he kept growing. One of them blurts out, "Do you all know the truth about my demon sword?" The revelation hits the guild like a thunderclap, and pure disbelief ripples through every last corner. The young adventurers lean in, eyes wide with awe, whispering promises to keep their brand new heroes hidden from the world. But Rona barges in, blaring that she's got news that could completely steal the spotlight from his brand new fame. She breaks it down. His victory over the Demon King was the reason they're honoring him. She whips out a celebratory banner and announces the Garakutas just got promoted straight to C rank. That sudden, unprecedented rank jump leaves Hirotaka and the guildmaster speechless, like their minds just got knocked clean off. Rona grins and tells everyone, with all these fresh recruits coming in, we're definitely hiring more staff. Even as the other adventurers buzz about Hirotaka's win, he cuts through the hype and reminds them they never even finished their exam. By now, his battle is the kind of legend people whisper about all over town. An adventurer swears the Demon King stood totally powerless, crushed by Hirotaka's overwhelming power. But a hooded figure he knows all too well leans in from behind and whispers, cranking the whole story to maximum dramatic level. That sudden voice slams into Hirotaka like a lightning bolt. Pure terror hits him in a heartbeat. It's Gisela, Demon King herself, leaning in and ordering him to shut his mouth like it's nothing. She tells them, "Mess with me again, and I'll wipe out the whole guild, every last one." He just freezes in shock, staring at her like he can't believe she's actually here. When one of the adventurers asks what's wrong, Hirotaka can't even form a sentence. He just stammers that it's nothing at all. Gisela nonchalantly waves Hirotaka over to follow her, and it leaves him utterly speechless. She tells him she only wants one thing, just a quick, real conversation. And just like that, they end up pounding through the city streets, lost in the chaos. Gisela is straight up having the time of her life. She grins and gobbles down a local snack, while Hirotaka can't stop wondering why he's somehow taking the Demon King out for lunch. Once her snack was gone, she just spun around and strode off, already hunting down her next delicious treat. Hirotaka snaps, demanding to know how she's still alive after that brutal battle. She scoffs at the question, shrugs off the whole fight like it's nothing, and basically says that wasn't even a real battle, because she never fought seriously. When everyone realizes she's been holding back, Lee and Rachel are left utterly speechless. But Hirotaka clenches his jaw and admits it, he felt this was coming the whole time. Gisela flashes a smile, and you can practically see a brand new plan taking shape in her head. Hirotaka clutches his sword, barking the question, "Are you here to snatch Asaro back from us again?" The two of them freeze in place, locked in a tense, wordless standoff. But Jezalej's huffs, grumbling that humans always rush to conclusions the second they think they've got the answer. She grins and reveals she's cooked up an even better plan. With a weird, chilling grin, she leans in and tells Hirotaka, "Stop fighting, just become the Demon King." That suggestion hits him like a lightning bolt, and our boy goes totally speechless. His companions are just as shocked, like the ground ripped out from under them with that sudden twist. Lei can't even wrap his head around what the Demon King is proposing. Gisela beams as she admits being the Demon King is a nightmare, and she's absolutely not trying to wrestle those responsibilities. Her stare is razor-sharp, and the offer on her lips sounds dead serious. She's absolutely convinced he's the perfect pick to become the next Demon King. Those words slam into Hirotaka's mind, and suddenly he remembers how weirdly unstoppable he felt during their fight. Gisela tells him Asaro's been quietly feeding him its power, boosting his body because it's taken a real liking to him. She adds, "If I'd really gone all out, no human would have survived a single second." Hirotaka freezes in place, silent, trying to swallow the impact of this bombshell. He snaps a quick look down at the demon's sword hanging at his hip. Finally, he figured out exactly where this new power was coming from. Gisela leans in close, pushing a contract and the throne into his hands, but he shuts it down on the spot. From the side, Lee blurts out a loud, no-nonsense rejection of the idea. Lee explains that everyone's been whispering the same terrifying rumor: bind a contract to a demon's sword, and it can start rotting your soul from the inside out. She can't stop worrying about what might happen to Hirotaka, even when he's doing everything with the best intentions. But Gisela just scoffs at them, telling them to stop lying and admit what they truly want. She insists that if she becomes the Demon King, it'll rip the seal off Asaro's real power, giving him the chance to live life on his own terms. The thought of living carefree makes everything stop for a second. Freedom's word hangs in the air, begging to be offered. But he snaps right back, cutting through the moment to remind her that being the Demon King was nothing but a non-stop headache. He roars that he'll team up with Asaro and chase adventures, then makes it crystal clear he has zero interest in becoming king. He just wants to kick back and live the easy life. Rachel snaps at him to quit being so stubborn, while Lies just stands there, stunned, as their bizarre argument spirals out of control. The young cleric is left totally stunned, like the whole world just flipped on him. And just like that, a fresh day crests the white cat's perch. But just as Rona starts her morning, a jaw-dropping sight slams the calm out of her day. Gisela grins and introduces herself as the new Demon King in town, and Hirotaka's joy-free reaction is pure dismay. He snaps and throws her out of the guild hall on the spot, trying to brush it off like it meant nothing to the other adventurers. But the Demon King's presence hits like a hammer, and their peaceful life shatters into chaos in the blink of an eye. Hirotaka can only stare at Asaro, stunned that life ever spun into something this messy. Gisela sweeps in and wins the guildmaster over with effortless ease. The non-stop interruptions drive Hirotaka to the absolute edge of his sanity. With the chaos days piling up, Lee can only stand there, tense and silently worried. A few days later, Hirotaka comes back from training, utterly wiped out and barely holding himself together. Lies and Rachel are waiting there, ready to welcome him back with open arms into the guild. Rachel fires off a question about whether he's finally getting used to his swordsmanship training, and he admits he's holding steady. But his training plan boils down to one thing: he starts inventing absurdly over-the-top names for his special moves, and it drives Rachel absolutely crazy. She leans in and tells him, look, you're racking up real, no-holds-barred combat experience with every single guild quest. But Hirotaka can't help but look back and realize he's been leaning on his friends way more than he ever admitted, even while he genuinely thought he had everything under control. He finally clocks it. Asoro's been backing him the whole time, quietly feeding him strength he never even realized he had. He finally tells Lee the truth, he's still just a weak human, but before that hits, she shoots back and tries to deny it. He admits that during the fight, terror swallowed him, and he blames himself for bringing them all into danger. And that fear lit a brand new fire in his chest, whipping up a burning need to get stronger. Lee tilts her gaze up at him, and a quiet worry rings in her voice. But Gisela's voice snaps in, telling him there's a fast route to the power he's been craving. He grinds his teeth and tells the Demon King he's done, no more of her suggestions. But the very next day, Gisela shows up in a brand new, weird outfit, and she waves like she owns the place. The sight completely rocks Hirotaka and his crew. They're left in total shock. He demands to know what she's wearing, but she just shoots him a smug look and smiles like she's got secrets. Then right from the doorway, a fresh voice snaps out a devious plan, like it's already won. Rona can't contain her joy, seeing the Demon King as the perfect, high-impact receptionist for their guild. Hirotaka steps in and confronts Gisela again, and you can tell she's soaking up every single bit of the attention like it's fuel. She leans in with a sly grin and whispers that every move she makes is all about one glorious goal, a future where she never has to lift a finger. She tells him she's come with a request so special it practically crackles in the air. With a dramatic flourish, she hands him a joint subjugation quest on a silver platter. The moment Hirotaka hears about this joint quest, his brain just screeches to a halt. Rona explains that the moment a monster shows up that no one guild can take alone, these kinds of quests get unleashed. And this time, the monster they're up against is on a whole different level, straight up special. A legendary monster just crashed into reality. A colossal dragon has suddenly reared its head out of nowhere. The news hits Hirotaka and his crew like a lightning bolt, and pure disbelief takes over. They're left frozen in total disbelief, staring like their brains just glitched at the revelation. Liz and Rachel burst the truth. Dragons aren't real, at least not in any normal way, because they're a mythic threat no ordinary adventurer could ever survive. But Gisela just smirks and declares, loud and confident, that a dragon is the perfect training partner for him. Rona leans in and says, with all these veteran adventurers crashing in, the rewards are gonna be absolutely enormous. Hirotaka weighs the offer, admitting a spark of curiosity. He's dying to see a real dragon up close. He straight up asks if a joint quest this huge means they're about to summon the army for backup. But Lee's face tightens with worry as he admits, yeah, that's probably not gonna happen. She makes it crystal clear, the army answers to the local lord, and if they deploy it, they'll light a fuse that could spark trouble with other territories. Hirotaka can't believe this. Until the city faces a direct threat, they refuse to budge. He blurts out just how much she knows about the lord's business, and it instantly throws her into a full-blown flustered panic. She panics and blurts out, I swear, I just happened to overhear it by pure chance. But Gisela's eyes harden, and she watches his flimsy excuse crumble under her suspicion. The Demon King smirks and says, of course Liz would know, this is her family's business. But just as their conversation starts to heat up, a mysterious long-haired man shows up out of nowhere and slams the moment to a stop. The whole party just freezes there, staring in disbelief, dying to figure out who this mystery stranger even is. Lisa's face goes pale in an instant as her eyes lock on her old teacher. Her sudden outburst hits Hirotaka like a shockwave, leaving him totally dumbfounded. The man locks his eyes on Lee, and you can tell he's finally found her at last. He faces his former student, and the tension in the air feels so heavy it could snap. Liz shoots him a furious question. What in the world is he doing here, in her family's own house? He calls her by her full name, Liz Montagny. Then he blurts out to everyone that she's the Lord's daughter of this city, and that she's been chosen to become the next court magician. That bombshell wrecks Hirotaka, because at last the pieces click, and he finally understands who Lee really is. Hirotaka can only stammer, trying to wrap his head around the bombshell that Liz is a noble's daughter. He whirls toward her and demands to know why she never once told him the truth. Her former teacher snorts, bluntly asking how she could possibly be so clueless and still have the nerve to travel with her. Rachel yells from the side, demanding to know if Hirotaka is seriously that clueless. Even Rona can't help it, she's cowering in fear, terrified of this unstoppable newcomer. He rolls in as Ash and Glow. Legend says he's the Sage of Ash and the court magician all in one. The pressure is so brutal that Rona swears her whole guild could get crushed beneath it. Even Gisela couldn't believe it. She realized that kind of figure was standing right there, close enough to feel. Ashen's eyes blaze, his patience snaps, and he declares, "All right, time to go, we're leaving now." He demands Lies come back with him to the Montagny household, and her horror spikes instantly. The court magician thrusts his hand forward, ready to rip the Lies right out of someone's grip. But Hirotaka lunges in and clamps down on his wrist with a crushing grip. He strides right in between them and orders the powerful sage to hold up. With a defiant glare burning through the room, he snaps that he'll never let anyone snatch Lies by force. A shivering cold stare spreads across Ashen Glow's face as he looks down, daring Hirotaka to answer one thing: who does he think he is? He waves our boy off like an outsider and snaps that this is a family problem, none of his business. But Hirotaka digs in and declares, "If I'm her companion, I can't just stand there and watch it happen." Rachel jumps in and asks the sage straight up if he's been eating right, because the guy looks painfully pale. Her bizarre question slams into him like lightning, leaving the powerful magician utterly stunned. And just like that, shock hits everyone. One tear wells up in his eye, and then he starts to crumble apart. Hirotaka can only gape in shock as the sages suddenly unravel in front of him. But then boom, glowing chains of magic burst from nowhere, snapping shut around him and pinning him to the spot. He's totally blindsided, and he can't even move before it hits him. Dread hits him all at once, his body is totally paralyzed, and he can't move a muscle. Rachel gets trapped too, and the second she feels that binding spell lock in, she realizes just how powerful it really is. Ashen Glow slam the warning, "Don't fight it, or you'll shatter your own bodies trying." Lise can only freeze in terror, screaming for her trapped friends as they're taken. The sage snatches Liza's arm and yanks like he's about to drag her out of there. He can't wrap his head around it. Why would someone with her noble standing ever show up in a place like this? And Liz has been left completely frozen in terror, unable to even resist. She pleads with her teacher to stop. Panic floods her voice as she begs. But then he coldly snaps that she didn't fight, she just ran away. She tore herself away from the life she was born to carry. Her mind rockets straight back to childhood, born with a rare gift and somehow already destined to become the next court magician. From the moment she was a kid, her whole life ran on strict training and non-stop study, like fate had already nailed her path in place. But the moment she hit 10, it was showtime. She finally had to prove her magic for real in front of everyone. The weight of everyone's expectations crushes her, and those whispers of praise twist into a suffocating pressure. Panic crashed down on her so hard she couldn't take it anymore. Then her magic detonated out of control, blasting the entire hall apart in one brutal, catastrophic collapse. From that day on, crippling anxiety swallowed her whole, and every time it mattered, her magic choked and failed. He leans in and demands to know, when she ran away, did she ever once think about how her father must have felt? He leans in and asks if she's finally satisfied, or if she's just itching to crush him with even more pain. Lise can only bite back her pride and offer her former teacher a small, defeated apology. She snaps her eyes to Hirotaka and blurts out that she's nothing but a useless coward, sprinting away from her own problems. With her head bowed, she blurts out a tearful apology, because she's been fooling him this whole time. But Hirotaka just lets out a heavy, bone-tired sigh that sounds like it drains the fight right out of him. He admits the whole situation is turning into a full-blown nightmare, and it's starting to hurt. He can't stop thinking about how he's always the very last one to realize his friends are hurting. He glances at her lies and it hits him. Escaping like that never could have been easy for her. With a soft smile, he praises her work, and the moment the words land, her whole world goes silent. She's left completely stunned. His simple words of validation hit her right in the heart, and a tear instantly spills from her eye. But Ash and Glow stay stone still, because their bond hits deeper than anything they could ever shake. He plants one heavy, deliberate step forward, like he's about to change everything, spitting out the name of a devastating deportation spell. In the blink of an eye, a blazing magic circle detonates under their feet. Rachel instantly clocks the teleport spell. She realizes he's about to vanish and steal away the lies. She thrashes against her magical restraints, but no matter how hard she fights, they refuse to snap. She feels it, his magic is off, like something in it doesn't match a single spell she's ever seen. Hirotaka throws every ounce of strength into one brutal push, trying to break free. But the sage shuts him down cold, telling him his efforts are pointless. Ash and Glow snap back that someone like him, stuck in a weak little adventure, could never break free. Hirotaka clenches his teeth and refuses to quit. He roars like the world's ending, pouring every last shred of will into the fight. Against every wild expectation, a terrifying crack rips through the magical chains. The powerful sage just freezes, staring in total, jaw-dropping disbelief. Hirotaka stands his ground and admits he gets it. Lies has to answer to her family. And then it hits him back when he had nothing. She was the very first person who stepped up and begged to be his companion. His words slam into Lei like a punch, leaving him completely stunned. With one last explosive surge, the magical chains finally snap to pieces. He drops the truth like a command. Her place is with them now. These are her real companions. The powerful sage can only freeze in shock as his magical restraints snap and shatter around him. Hirotaka yanks Lee behind him, using his body as a shield to keep her safe from her former teacher. Ashinglu's jaw drops, his brutal binding spell gets smashed to pieces like it was nothing. Lee's mind wouldn't let it go. Breaking free must have battered his body in a major way. But Hirotaka just grins like he's holding back a secret and tells you his body is a little different. And at his hip, the demon sword Asaro seems to throb with a low, unstoppable power. He asked if she was okay, but all she could do was apologize for how selfish she'd been. But he straight up tells her, "I still don't know what you really want to do." His simple question hits her like a wave. She freezes, speechless. But right as they're talking, a sudden blur from the side interrupts everything. Lee snaps her head toward her former teacher, her face set with a calm, unshakable determination. She thanks him for every lesson he's given her over the years, and her voice rings with pure respect. She finally admits it. One day she'll come back home and carry out her promise as a court magician. But she vows that the day everyone waits for isn't here. Not today, not yet. She digs deep, finds pure guts, and yells she's staying with the Garricutors, where she can mess up, get back up, and keep grinding for another try. Her heartfelt confession hits like a lightning bolt, freezing the powerful sage in stunned silence. He presses her hard when, besides this exact moment, has she ever dared to say what she truly thinks. Lies whips around to Hirotaka, stunned that she even dares to ask for this after she's already fooled them. But Rachel cuts in, snapping at her to stop shrinking into the background and stand tall beside her brand new companions. And Hirotaka bursts out in agreement, shouting that of course it's fine, her place is with them now, right here. Hirotaka's face lights up with a real, unstoppable smile because of his unwavering support. Ashen glow eases up, and a tiny, understanding smile flickers across his face. Lee is completely overwhelmed with emotion. Tears of pure relief pour down her face. Rachel jumps in and swears Lisa's magic training is going great, so she has zero reason to hold back. Hirotaka nods along, laughing and saying her healing magic is so crazy it even makes his skin look better. With a dramatic pose, Rachel proclaims that Lizzie is a real magical genius and insists she's never wrong. Ashen glow whirls away, but his face gives nothing, no hint of what he's thinking. Loki admits he knows her potential better than anyone in the world. He reveals Lies is carrying Shakura's divine protection, and that power only obeys the truly gifted. Rachel's mind goes totally blank when she realizes what this divine blessing truly means. Hirotaka can only sit there and listen, then it hits him. This is why her holy magic is so insanely good. Ashen Glow straight up tells her, "It was my job to spark her talent, then mold it, raise you into a true court magician." With a heavy heart, he declares that this was the only mission he had left. But Hirotaka is practically itching for a fight. He looks ready to argue his point right now. The sage steps in and tosses them a challenge. Prove this guild is exactly where she's meant to be. That sudden proposition hits Hirotaka and Lies like a sucker punch. Both of them are totally stunned. He grabs the conversation right where it left off and pitches the dragon subjugation quest they were just talking about. Cold rage in his eyes, he snaps an order, "Bring me the beast's head." He adds that if they don't succeed, Lee's heading back home with him, just like the original plan. Because he refuses to hand her over to a party that can barely survive a trial this huge. Lee's shout cuts through the chaos as she declares, "Even if it's impossible, we're doing it." The three of them huddle together, locked in on the impossible, ready to take it head first. Ashen Glow glances back and his face softens just a little. He gives in without a word, watching her fresh determination ignite like a promise. Once he makes his choice, he whips around and teleports out, right there in a flash. He swears he'll come back the moment the quest ends, and in the meantime, he'll take care of her entire family. Lies shoots a final plea straight at her teacher, like a last spark before everything ends. She throws out a sincere apology, admitting she's been selfish and a total headache of a student. Tears shimmered in her eyes as she looked at him and thanked him for giving her this chance. With one last flash of light, the mighty sage disappears from the guild hall like the world just blinked. Now that the mighty sage is gone, the three of them are left to tackle a task that feels straight up impossible. But Hirotaka just smirks and tells them straight up that they've got no choice now. They're seeing this through to the end. Rachel smirks and says her arms are tingling with pure excitement, or maybe it's her stomach that's going wild. Lee grips the gloves he gave her like they're a promise, and swears she'll master her divine power. She knows that if she takes that step with them, she'll finally unlock a power so huge it changes everything. With their mission locked in, the whole guild bursts into a roaring cheer, backing them all the way. Every corner crackles with energy, like the whole town is holding its breath for the legendary hunt to begin. Upstairs, Gisela broods over how it all began as a dull little tale, is rapidly morphing into something way more entertaining. She leans in at the window with a smug grin, watching their every move like it's entertainment. Far from the city, the peaceful countryside sprawled in eerie silence. A dark shadow suddenly crashes over the far-off mountains. A brilliant eye snaps open, shattering the silence and dragging him out of a deep, endless sleep. So a legendary beast spreads its wings and storms the sky, blazing through the sky at speeds that shouldn't even be possible. The dragon is back, and it's bringing a creature straight out of myth, with power that could shake the world. That lone shadow is enough to send terror crashing straight into men's hearts. And word of its arrival blitzes through the entire kingdom. In a whole other guild, a cocky adventurer strides up and announces, loud and fearless, that they're signing up for the dragon hunt. But when he drops that bold proclamation, his comrades can only stare in stunned silence. One buddy shrugs off the dragon like it's just a giant lizard, and the other snaps that dealing with it is going to be a total pain. But then their leader cuts them off with a chilling glare, flat out asking, "You got any complaints?" The grumbler snaps that their leader's acting way too arrogant, but the woman fires back that he's only messing around with them. The leader slams the decision down. He refuses to live as some worthless nobody, and vows to prove once and for all that he's the most superior human alive in this world. His eyes pinch shut with suspicion as he demands, in a furious whisper, who had the nerve to steal the glory of beating a demon king. With ice-cold fury in his chest, he spits out the vow he'll never forgive them. Taka's back as hero, and man, he's not just ready, he's vibrating with excitement for the adventure to kick off. At last, the day of the dragon subjugation crashes in, and all the adventurers race to the exact meeting point. He scans the sea of massive adventurers around him, and the sheer power in that crowd hits him like a wave. He can barely keep up. But the second he spots Gisela floating right beside him, irritation flares. She's demanding to know why she's been dragged into their tale. She tells you dragons are almost never seen, and honestly, she couldn't resist coming all this way to witness one with her own eyes. Hirotaka just locks eyes with her, and that flimsy excuse dies on the spot. But then bam, his gaze locks onto a cluster of rough, no-nonsense adventurers looming just nearby. They're laughing at the hero's arrival, scratching their heads like, what are we even doing here? Rachel warns him to steer clear of those nasty types, but Hirotaka just can't wrap his head around why she keeps talking about a hero. One of the adventurers whips around and snaps to someone else, "You're in my way." Hirotaka's eyes blow wide with shock the second he realizes who they're talking about. The spiky-haired adventurer barrels right into the newcomer's space. Then the man stays ice calm and coolly points out, "That's Kenichi." And it's Hirotaka's old party leader, standing there like he owns the world, staring down the adventurer with pure, cutting disdain. That condescending jab ignites a silent, blazing rage in the spiky-haired man. The adventurer surges forward in a blind fury, and his comrades can barely keep him from ripping free. But Kenichi snaps into the attack and blocks it with effortless ease, face stuck in pure, lifeless boredom. The spiky-haired man freezes in shock at the brutal gap in their strength. Kenichi's blade shakes in his grip as he snaps that he has no time to waste, he's got a week to burn. His eyes narrowed with a deadly threat, daring the man to get out of his way. Other adventurers snapped and grumbled that the hero sat on his hands while the Demon King showed up. Kenichi just sneers at them and tells them to go home, if they only want the easy stuff. He spins his back on them and shuts the whole confrontation down like it's nothing but a colossal waste of his time. Hirotaka watches him disappear and realizes his old leader hasn't changed at all. One of Kenichi's party members lets out a heavy sigh, grumbling that everything is turning into a total nightmare. His party nods in unison, then tells the other adventurers, "Go home, just call it." But the spiky-haired man snaps back, laying the blame on them and claiming they made him look like a complete fool. He yanks the blonde man up by the collar and roars that he doesn't give a damn about their excuses. He swears they got dragged in and tossed into use, but the hero's companion stays stone calm like none of it even matters. A chill snaps across the blond man's face as he braces to strike. Kenichi whirls around and declares this quest is the biggest reward they've ever laid eyes on. Hirotaka can only stare in helpless shock as his old comrades march straight toward the mountain. Rachel leans in and asks if he knows them, because she can feel that dangerous tension hanging over the hero's party. He finally admits it, Asoro's the reason he survived, but they were the ones who kicked him out and he lays it all bare. He was too weak back then. Lai stares in awe as she remembers Kenichi's wild skill, attack nullification, and suddenly she realizes just how insanely powerful he really is. Hirotaka whips his companions into gear, barking that with rivals this brutal, they're going to have to grind harder than ever. But the other adventurers huddle in whispers like, "We'd trust Hirotaka way more, he's the one who got kicked out." At last, the rumor crashes into Kenichi's world. Hirotaka is the one who took down the Demon King. The news slams into him like a punch to the gut, and his mind just won't accept it. He remembers Hirotaka like dead weight, nothing but a useless burden, backed by a skill so worthless it might as well be trash. His shock flips into pure rage. He roars for the dragon to show up, swearing he'll tear it down with his own hands. He's locked in, he's going to rip back the glory he swears was always his. But then right in the blink of an eye, an ominous shadow crashes over the entire mountain range. The adventurers whip their heads up in panic, and dread crashes over them like a tidal wave. And one chilling word of terror slips out of their mouths the second the legendary beast arrives. That word hangs there like a thunderclap, sealing the truth. The legendary beast has finally arrived. A monster of pure jaw-dropping power, its body glints and shimmers as it drops from the sky and lands in the sunlight. But right before anyone even gets a chance to react, Hirotaka blurts Rachel's name in full panic. The elf rockets into the sky and rips the air apart with a brutal wind spell. A furious vortex of wind yanks the massive beast off balance for a heartbeat. Hirotaka can only stare from the ground, totally stunned by her reckless stunt. But then bam, his eyes lock on another figure crashing into the fight, leaping straight into the chaos. It's Kenichi, and you can see the shock hit him the moment Hirotaka shows up on the battlefield. But that shock gets ripped away in an instant, and pure fury hardens into a single goal. He's going to seize the dragon's head for himself. He rockets straight into the monster's gaping mouth, locking in for one hit, the first and the last. But Hirotaka suddenly jolts to the truth. Asoro's mana break should have crushed it. The dragon bursts out and unleashes a non-stop torrent of pure flame. Nothing can block it. That blast slings Kenichi through the air, and Lies and Rachel scream Hirotaka's name, terrified for what comes next. Our boy is still reeling from the aftershock, and he can't stop wondering if he's really going to be okay. He stared at his sword, baffled that its mana-destroying power didn't even scratch the target. But Gisela shrugs it off and says, straight-faced, that the dragon's breath isn't magic at all. That revelation hits Hirotaka like a shockwave. He's left totally stunned. And the beast roars again, then unleashes another brutal strike, tearing the air open with a swirling vortex of pure power. That brutal hit slams them backward, and right as they stumble, Hirotaka snaps, "Brace yourself for the next one." He clenches his teeth, and you can see his expression steal over with pure, unshakable resolve. Right when the chaos is peaking, a brand new voice crashes over the battlefield like thunder. A towering, horned monster bursts into view and roars that he's finally nailed the target he's been hunting. His gaze snaps onto the Demon King the second he screams Gisela's name. Hirotaka can only stare, utterly fed up that this newcomer just burst in. But the newcomer's rage turns straight on Gisela. He snaps that she's way too small. He throws a full tantrum, screaming about every bit of trouble he suffered just to track her down. Their epic showdown spirals into a ridiculous spat over who's bigger, and Gisela snaps that he's way too loud. The sheer absurdity of it all hits Hirotaka so hard he can't even speak. He whips his head toward Gisela and demands to know if she recognizes this strange, power-humming man. She flashes a sly grin and basically dares him to admit he already knows the answer. He kicks things off by introducing himself, Tristan, the Demon King of Wrath. Hirotaka and the other adventurers can only gape, utterly crushed by what they're seeing. Our boy clenches his teeth because the moment demands focus. This is no time for jokes. As Kenichi stares up from below, Gisela drifts away like she's vanishing into thin air. With a wild grin blazing across his face, he finally clicks. Turns out that dragon was the Demon King the whole time. Tristan snaps his head away and declares, "If I can beat you, then I'll do it." His eyes burned with a furious drive, so intense it swallowed everything else. Kanishi can barely breathe, his sheer presence hits like a tidal wave, and sweat pours down his face. Tristan whips around to Gisela and demands, "So, did you find the demon's sword?" She casually nods at Hirotaka and tells him to take it back from the kid, right then himself. Gisela grins and announces she's stepping down from her sword title to Hirotaka, and he panics, shouting no, no way. The Demon King of Wrath can only lock eyes and stare, utterly stunned. His confusion snaps, and a silent, burning rage takes over like wildfire. He admits he actually respected her laziness, because to him it screams pure, unchained freedom, the kind only a demon king can truly unleash. But he snaps that she's stripped of the title for good. Hirotaka roars for everyone to hit the ground, sensing a terrifying danger closing in fast. Tristan lifts his hand, and a terrifying storm of destructive energy starts to coil around him. With one vicious word, he readies himself and prepares to unleash his power. A blinding flash detonates across the whole battlefield in the blink of an eye, then the light dies down, and Hirotaka staggers, his body screaming with pain as he fights to steady his breathing and force his mind to make sense of the chaos. His eyes are blown wide with pure shock, and the blast has his whole body trembling. He stared across the dead wasteland. Every inch of that mountain was flattened by the attack. But then a weak groan snaps his attention. Kanishi is still alive. A whisper-thin protective glow spills from the fallen hero's body, lighting up everything around him. He spots that glow and realizes it, Lee's protection spell. She'd stamped it onto the soldiers for safety. A wave of pure relief hits another adventurer as he finally realizes Lei just saved every single one of them. But Hirotaka's relief gets yanked away the moment a terrifying dread starts creeping in. He spots Lee clutching an unconscious Rachel in her arms. The young cleric leans in and admits the brutal truth. Rachel threw herself in the blast's path to save them with her own body. A flashback rips open the past and shows the blast, Tristan looming over them all. Rachel bares her teeth and forces herself through the brutal, crushing pain. She hurled up a last-ditch barrier, bracing Lee's and sparing him from the attack. She admitted she burned through every last ounce of her mana just to shield that young cleric. She tells Lee's, "With my divine power, I'm the only one who can stand between everyone and disaster." The elf flashes one last, fearless smile, fully sure her friend is about to shine. Back in the present, Lee throws Hirotaka a desperate plea, begging him to save himself and everyone else. She sinks into despair because even with her power blazing, she still couldn't shield every single one of them. Hirotaka shoots back, "I said it's fine," then insists they're all still alive because it's all thanks to her. He orders her to keep healing everyone, then he strides off to deal with the Demon King on his own. Wiping away that tear, Lee nods, his new determination blazing in his eyes. But Gisela warns that the moment Tristan's rage erupts, there's no turning back. He'll burn everything to ash and keep going. With a cruel grin, she spits out that he can't win a single battle unless he turns into the Demon King himself. Hirotaka can only scream her name, rage tearing through him at her casual cruelty. But the moment Tristan looms over him, his rage gets drowned out, pure terror takes over. Cold sweat pours down his face as the truth finally hits like a punch. The Demon King of Wrath stares down at him and tears him apart with just one cold, dismissive word. He slams his fist into the ground and detonates a brutal wave of pure destruction. His raging roars crash through the wasteland, screaming that they're all weak. And Hirotaka can only shout back, half pure defiance, half crushing desperation. Tristan loomed over the fallen Hirotaka, and his defiance didn't even faze him. He erupts in pure frustration, seething because this so-called weakling actually dares to stand up and fight him. Meanwhile, Gisela just drifts nearby, totally unimpressed, like the whole disaster is barely registering. Hirotaka can barely do anything but cough, because that last hit crushed the breath right out of him. Then it hits him full-body dread, as he realizes this is the Demon King's real, unstoppable power. And despair crashes over him like a tidal wave. There's no way he can pull off a win. Tristan scoffs, laughing at the pathetic humans who actually believed they had a shot. He bares his teeth, ready to crush this pointless struggle once and for all. But Leslie digs in, her staff blazing with light as she braces to defend them. Her resolve gets instantly shattered when she stumbles on a sudden, jaw-dropping sight. Because Hirotaka can only shriek her name in raw, desperate panic. He glares down at his sword and realizes Asaro has only one road left for him. Gisela's cruel smile snaps back as she thrusts the contract toward him again. But Lisa's voice slices through the chaos, shutting down his plan before he can even step onto that path. Her sudden intervention slams into Hirotaka like lightning, leaving her completely stunned. She faces the Demon King alone, back to her friends, daring him to strike first. Quiet doesn't even begin to cover it, unshakable determination blazes in her eyes. But Tristan unleashes a savage roar, barking at the weak to drop dead right where they stand. And he unleashes another soul-crushing blast of destructive power. Hirotaka can only stare in pure terror, totally helpless as the attack crashes down. She still remembers that first meeting, every word he said to her like it happened yesterday. How he looked her in the eyes and told her that her kindness was the best medicine he'd ever prayed for. Tears spilling down her cheeks, she blurts out, "That's exactly what I love, your kindness." And she knows if he climbs into that Demon King throne, the gentle soul she loves could vanish forever. Gisela just scoffs and shreds her heartfelt plea, calling it nothing more than a pathetic imitation. But Lai stands his ground, vowing he'll resent him if he ever dares to take that path. Her sudden, ferocious declaration hits Hirotaka like a punch to the gut, freezing him in total shock. But Tristan just scoffs at her, snarling for her to die, while she's left drowning in her own crushing powerlessness. He lifts one finger, then flicks it like it's nothing. With a slick little flick, he unleashes a crushing power that leaves nothing standing. Then in the blink of an eye, a blinding wave of holy light bursts out and shields every single soul on the battlefield. With a desperate scream, Lee unleashes every last drop of her divine power. She digs deep into her magic and hurls out a desperate chant, weaving protection and healing into the air like a lifeline. Her voice booms through the wasteland, a last, fearless punch thrown straight at the Demon King. Her mind snaps back to her teacher's words, straight-up proof she could do it. He always knew she couldn't possibly be here without real talent backing her up. And right in this moment it all clicks, she finally understands exactly what he meant. She still feels that bone-chilling, soul-rattling power she's always carried, waiting to explode. A power she'd carried her whole life, only to swallow her fear and never dare touch it. A power that once tore everything apart, leaving only ruin and shame in its wake. She blurts out an apology for how terrified she was, so she kept darting her eyes away. But now she grabs her younger self and pleads for the power to push forward. In a blinding flash, a tidal wave of pure holy light explodes from her body. Wrath's Demon King can only freeze there, utterly stunned as this sudden burst of power slams into the world. Even Gisela can't help but gasp at the massive, overwhelming force of Lisa's magic. The orb on her staff flares with an intensity that feels downright impossible. Hirotaka stared in total disbelief, and his thoughts spun out of control. Even Kanishi can only gasp in disbelief, wondering if he's staring at a real goddess. From the blinding light, a towering divine monster bursts into view, gripping a bundle of lies in its hands. It's Shakura, the compassionate Holy Mother, standing as the reason Lisa's divine protection stays strong. Her gaze ignites with divine light as she begs for the power to shield every single one of them. And the Holy Mother Shakura extends a warm, benevolent hand. A soft surge of energy sweeps Hirotaka and the other adventurers off the ground like they weigh nothing, bathing them in a cozy, protective glow. The divine being snatches every last survivor and traps them inside a colossal sphere of holy magic. Tristan freezes in place, eyes wide as he realizes he's witnessing the power of a real god made flesh. He can't wrap his head around it. How can some regular human possibly command power that massive? Even Kenichi is stunned speechless, whispering pure, breathless awe. But Liz isn't done yet. She keeps praying for one more spark of that divine strength. She has to unlock her power and finally put a permanent end to the Demon King's rampage. Tristan can only gawk in shock, staring at the divine power right in front of him. Hirotaka is completely stunned. His brain just can't keep up with what's unfolding. Gisela's grinning like crazy, clearly loving every second of the show. Lisa's eyes blaze with a holy fire as her power finally erupts, fully unleashed. With one brutal holy swing, the Holy Mother slams Tristan straight into the ground. The Demon King of Wrath can only clench his teeth, totally stunned as her strength crushes everything in his path. Liz finally snaps. This is the first time she's honestly, fully furious. She shuts her eyes tight and funnels every ounce of her will straight into the divine being. And Shakura, the Holy Mother, steps up to cast the final divine judgment. But Tristan explodes into a furious roar, flat out refusing to let some mere human beat him. The divine being clenches its fists and smashes the Demon King into nothing with sheer, crushing power. Tristan can only grimly struggle as that crushing pressure slams down on him, wave after wave. Hirotaka can barely get Lee's name out, his mind spinning as her terrifying power hits like a storm. The Holy Mother clamps down with iron resolve, sealing her final judgment in utter silence. She towers over the Demon King and, without a shred of fear, asks him straight out if he's mad. But Tristan absolutely erupts, drowning in rage because she dares to mock him. He roars that she has absolutely no clue who she's messing with. With a surge of raw power, he rips himself free from her divine grip. He drops in with a defiant stare, daring her to not let herself get carried away. And he blasts out one last, desperate surge of destructive power, swearing he'll never be beaten. Holy Mother Shakura stands her ground, and her divine power slams his attack into nothing. Lizzie clenches her teeth and shoves every ounce of willpower she has into the spell. But Tristan just scoffs, and the whole situation gets under his skin in the worst way. Lizzie laughs and declares that, with her guardian god backing her up, his attacks are totally worthless. But the Demon King just stares her down and demands, "So what do you think you've actually accomplished?" He snaps that he's not mad because she blocked his attack. He's furious because her own stubborn foolishness got her there. He brands the god's manifestation as a cheap trick, but says the price is something nobody can measure. Then he lines in and demands to know, does she really have it in her to die for this? The question hits Hirotaka like a bolt of pure electricity, leaving him stunned. But Lisa's eyes turn steel cold. Her resolve never wavers, not even when death comes crashing down. Tristan bluntly admits her power is only a stalling move. She's buying Hirotaka the seconds he needs to spot a way in. Lee clenched her teeth and swore she'd push through, no matter how long it took. The Demon King only smirks, then lines in and demands, "So you really think my flames are just some petty magic?" He tells them his power isn't just mana, it's fueled by his life force too, a hellfire flame that'll rage on for all eternity. He summons a colossal fire god, then throws his own life into the flames, burning every last trace of sin to ash. A massive, swirling orb of dark fire spirals into existence, an attack he calls Cosmic Meteor ***. He grins like a madman, daring her guardian god to stand up to a power that could erase a mountain. A brutal attack slams down from above, scorching everything it touches and threatening to turn the whole world to ash. Lise can only choke out Shakura's name, her whole body shaking under the crushing weight of that pressure. Hirotaka snaps his gaze back to her, and his face locks into raw, unfiltered terror. Right as the attack crashes down, Hirotaka rockets into action, apologizing to the divine being for what he's about to unleash. He flat out declares its power so unstoppable, even a god can't put a stop to it. With a savage roar, he slams Asaro's mana break skill wide open. He drives one desperate swing through the divine barrier and shatters it in an instant. His eyes burn with desperate resolve, unyielding, unshakable, and ready to break the world. The Demon King of Wrath gets blindsided by this sudden move. Tristan can only gawk in disbelief, wondering what kind of human would have the nerve to swing the demon's sword like that. Lee yells at him, pleading, "Don't you dare act so reckless." Hearing that name, Tristan's attention snaps to it. He repeats it again, and curiosity sparks in his eyes. Then he says it sounds like a Japanese name, and Hirotaka is hit so hard he just freezes, completely stunned. Hirotaka demands an answer. How in the world could a demon king even know about Japan? Tristan snaps his gaze up from the ground and shock hits, like the truth is finally clicking into place. With a proud grin, he claims he was human too, straight from Japan, yanked into this world over a century ago. That revelation hits Hirotaka like a wrecking ball. He's frozen, totally speechless, and his mind spins out of control. Tristan flashes a smug grin, thinking, we're both from the same country, so Hirotaka has to get why I want power. But the moment he unleashes a furious roar, his calm facade shatters instantly. That sudden mood swing hits Hirotaka like a punch to the gut, leaving him totally blindsided. He can only stare in stunned silence, while a bead of sweat races down his face. And then horror slams him in the chest, as the Demon King clamps down and bites into his own giant blade. With a wild grin, he blurts out whether Hirotaka is blown away by what he's just shown. With pride blazing in his voice, he unveils his weapon's true name, the Demon Sword Legend. Hirotaka can do nothing but freeze in pure shock, because he just recognized the blade. It's a Japanese sword. Tristan leans in and admits he's from an ancient Japan, so far back that katanas didn't even exist yet. But he brushes the details aside like they don't matter, and snaps his attention back to what's happening right now. He steps forward and finally admits it. He's been burning with curiosity for ages about which demon sword is the real king. With a wild, manic grin, he challenges his fellow Japanese men to a duel, then unleashes his demon sword legion. Hirotaka's demon sword of sorrow crashes down on him. Two figures square off across a blasted wasteland, bracing for the last, ultimate showdown. From afar, the leaves and the rest of the survivors can only stare as these two close in, ready to smash into each other. Even Kanishi is left speechless, just clinging to the fact that he somehow dodged the blast and lived. Kanishi just freezes there, eyes wide in pure disbelief, his brain scrambling to make sense of what he's actually seeing. One of his companions yells, "We've got to run, there's nothing we can do here." But the hero can only stare over his shoulder. Running is so alien to him it feels impossible. He can't shake the question, after everything he's done, why hasn't he finally proven he's worth it? His companion can only stare back, wearing grim understanding like a mask. He finally whips around, tells Kanishi to do whatever he wants, and then bolts, leaving him standing there. Kanishi still remembers the day they chose him, his heart hammered with nerves and purpose. He used to swear getting chosen was proof he mattered, but now doubts are clawing at him. And right then it hits him, nobody even glances his way. The moment these two demon sword wielders collide, their raw power blasts through the ground like it's getting ripped apart. Hirotaka dug in his heels, fighting tooth and nail to stay standing as the attack crashed down on him. But Tristan just breaks into laughter, telling him they've got zero time to rest. He slams in with relentless pressure, smashing through our boys' defenses like they're made of paper. The Demon King's eyes blaze with ice-cold fury, like it won't ever let up. And Hirotaka just freezes, staring back in total shock at the massive gap in their power. From the side, Kanishi erupts in a scream, yelling at Hirotaka to look right at him. Hirotaka spun around, relief exploding in his chest when he saw his old leader was still alive. He even throws down a challenge with them, gassing up Kanishi's brutal, game-changing skill and pushing for a tag-team fight. But just as he offers a truce, violence explodes, an attack so brutal it hits like a gut punch. Hirotaka can barely get the words out as his old comrade whips around and turns on him. But Hirotaka jolts when he realizes those words are coming straight from him. Kanishi scoffs, calling himself worthless, and fires back at the world like, "Why am I even battling a demon king if I'm just some weak nobody?" Then it hits him hard and his face twists with a realization that feels completely wrong. With a wild manic grin, he barks at Hirotaka to hand over the demon's sword, right now. Hirotaka just freezes in shock, while Kanishi casually admits he's always found that sudden burst of power way too suspicious. He sneers and insists it's all the sword's doing, the kind of power he swears he could use way better. He snaps that he's the chosen one, no one else, not some trash nobody. A wild flashback rips the curtain open, showing how he became obsessed with the power of his own strength, and his burning, total disdain for Hirotaka's worthless skill. To him, only what you can actually hold in your hands is worth chasing. He sneers and basically says the power was never even Hirotaka's to start with. With a furious scream, he snaps at him, "Don't get so carried away." Hirotaka snaps back at them, yelling that this isn't the moment to throw punches. He begs them to team up right now. But Kanishi gets totally swallowed by rage, sick of Hirotaka acting like he just unlocked some new power. Just as the duel is heating up, a fresh voice slices in. Tristan snaps, demanding the name of whoever dares interrupt them. The Demon King of Wrath steps in between them, and just like that, their petty argument dies on the spot. Hirotaka's color drains from his face the second he realizes just how deadly this situation is. Even Kanishi can only clench his teeth and rage through frustration. From the sidelines, Lies tilts her head toward her divine guardian and prays, begging for everyone to stay safe. Holy Mother Shakura keeps her post, eyes sharp and silent, standing guard over the battlefield like an unbreakable shield. Lee's left standing there, staring in pure, absolute terror. Tristan unleashes a brutal wave of raw, world-shattering destruction. His blade bites straight into the ground beneath them, sending the so-called hero flying with one effortless swing. Lazy can only gasp in disbelief, staring at the impossible sight before her. The crushing weight of holding onto her divine power finally breaks her. She crumples to the ground, and Hirotaka's frantic shout of her name cuts through the chaos. He bolts to her side, dread clawing at his chest that something terrible has already happened. But he lets out a shaky breath and it hits him. She's not dead, she's just knocked out. Tristan towers over him and snarls that his demon sword can slice straight through anything. He realizes Lisa's divine magic can't even hold its ground against that brutal attack. And Tristan clocks the brutal truth. Kanish's legendary attack nullification skill still can't do a damn thing. The so-called hero is sprawled in defeat, his body ripped apart by the Demon King's overwhelming power. Against every impossible odds, Kanish's eyes snapped open again, clinging to life with every last heartbeat. Hirotaka snaps at him, begging him to rise up, shake it off, and keep the fight going. But Tristan's patience snaps right at the edge. He's done waiting and can't stop himself from diving back into his duel with Hirotaka. Our boy just stands there frozen, staring at his fallen rival, while the battlefield goes eerily silent for one terrifying beat. Kenichi gritted his teeth and tried to haul himself up, but agony tore through his body with every trembling movement. He can't help but wonder, this is it, right? The Demon King is about to smash the final blow. But Tristan just scoffs, finally calling out the hero's true pathetic nature for everyone to see. His thoughts slam back to his own cruel philosophy, where the useless get tossed aside like they never mattered. He's always despised weakness, treating it like a stain that needs to be cut out and erased. But now it's him crumpled on the ground, broken, with one lone tear burning in his eye. He jerks his gaze upward and his brain scrambles, trying to wrap itself around what's happening. And his eyes snap wide as a jaw-dropping realization finally hits. He jolts upright, staring in shock as his fatal wounds refuse to stay fatal and start healing anyway. Staring up at Hirotaka, he blurts out that he just tried a skill for the very first time, and it totally worked. But Hirotaka cracks open the truth. He used Asoro's undead attribute grant because he sees it as the only shot to pull him back from the brink. Kenichi can only stammer out undead, baffled, like, why would Hirotaka go this far just to help him? Hirotaka only looks down, voice steady as he admits, I just couldn't stand by and let him die. Kenichi just stands there, frozen, his brain scrambling to understand why someone would do something this kind. But before he can even process it, a sudden, terrifying motion slams into the scene and steals his breath. Tristan explodes forward with zero hesitation. Kenichi crumpled to the ground as he landed a second, gut-wrenching strike that finished him. The Demon King rages, griping that these non-stop interruptions have finally pushed him over the edge. He scoffs down at the fallen adventurers, dripping with pure contempt, calling it a disaster from the moment they were born, screaming that all this worthless junk was never meant to be. But those ruthless words finally snap Hirotaka, and he's pushed way past his limit. He roars back, furious that nobody gets to label them garbage just because they're trying to live. With a defiant grin, he declares he'll be the one who defeats him. His eyes blaze with a wild, desperate hunger, like he'll snap the world just to get one more second. Tristan snorts, mocking his own self-righteous act as nothing but the excuse of a pathetic loser. But Hirotaka can only spiral through his own miserable life, convinced his companions are nothing but weak people, leaning on each other because they can't stand on their own. Even in the depths of his despair, he clings to one truth: he was saved. Tristan finally grasps the brutal truth: everything he once held dear in this world is gone. But then Hirotaka's thoughts snap back to his new friends. Because of them, he was never really alone. He stands there towering and fearless, vowing that with his companions right beside him, nothing in the world can break them. That honest, heartfelt confession hits the Demon King like a sucker punch, totally blindsiding him. Yet the horror of it all still crawls across Hirotaka's face. A single, desperate question hangs there like a threat: how do you even make a contract with a demon sword? Gisela's voice hits the air like a command: this part's easy, just pour your blood onto the sword. He has to spill his own blood onto the blade, then beg for its power. Only then can he finish the contract. She glides over him and taunts him like, looks like you finally see things my way. His grip clamps down on the hilt, and the weight of his choice hits like thunder. He wrestles with the thought, I don't want that Demon King crown, because he's perfectly happy living that simple, easy life. But if this power is what it takes to shield the people he loves, then he'll take the risk. He shuts his eyes tight, silently apologizing to Liz and Rachel. Because if kindness can't defend anyone at all, then it's basically worthless. And just like that, he tosses kindness aside and demands Asoro forge him into a Demon King. A dark aura explodes around him the second the transformation kicks off. Gisela hovers above the ground, her whole body wrapped tight in the contract's dark energy. With a crazed grin on her face, she announces the pact is finally finished. A dark power surged through Hirotaka and slammed into his body. He swears this insane power is ripping through his body, flipping his whole world from the inside out. The transformation hits like a storm, ripping through his body and remaking him into something completely new. When it all ends, he rises up as the brand new Demon King of Sloth. He immediately crashes into Tristan, and his brand new power slams straight into the Demon King's face-to-face showdown. The Demon King of Wrath can only grin, pure thrill lighting up his face at this sudden twist. But Hirotaka's eyes go ice cold, and you can tell, when this is over, not a single trace of his enemy will remain.